You know what? I think she donated to my campaign. I think she made me a campaign donation. I don't even know who she is. Isn't that funny?
She means well.
All right, you guys ready?
Yep,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Villa Park City Council. I hereby call the meeting to order. Ryan, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Present.
Councilmember Façade.
Present.
Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Councilmember Pauly.
Here.
Great, thank you. Today I'd like to ask Dennis Kulai, our city treasurer, if he'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Dennis. At this time, I'd like to ask all the people in the audience to please silence your cell phone or turn them off if possible. The Villa Park City Council and staff welcomes you to this meeting.
Okay.
We encourage your participation. If you wish to speak on an item contained on the agenda, please approach a podium at the time the item is being considered. After I recognize you, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. Speakers will be limited to a time period of 3 minutes in most cases. If you wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, please do so during the period listed for oral communications. Tonight, I'd like to go, we have some presentations, and I'd like to move up the presentation for the high school football team first, since we kind of had a request to do that. So, Jared, do you have a little report on that? We have a proclamation for them.
We have the proclamation. I have no such report for
Okay.
it. I believe the proclamation's in your hands.
Why don't you guys step up front? Do we have a microphone? I guess we can use a podium. Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There's a little microphone here. I think we'll be able to hear. Okay. I'll present it. So what we have, guys, is a proclamation. That's what it looks like. I'll read it real fast. City of Villa Park Proclamation, Spartan Football Century League three-peat champions 2012, 2011, and 2010. Whereas the Villa Park High School football team, the Spartans, won the 2012 Century League Championship, representing the Spartans' third consecutive league championship. And whereas students, players, coaches, parents, and supporters have all come together in making truly a championship team. And whereas the dedication, hard-working, long hours of practice, mutual support, and commitment of the team and coaches exemplify the pride and heart of the Villa Park High School football program. And whereas the student leaders of the Spartans have exhibited a work ethic and level of confidence that transcends the football field. And whereas the recognition and celebration of our championship team serves to bring our community together in honoring our students and their coaches for a phenomenal football season resulting in an outstanding 9-1 season record. And now, therefore, it be proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Villa Park, that the Villa Park High School Spartans football team, the Spartans, be honored for their success in being the 2012 Century League three-peat championship. And be it further proclaimed that the work, talent, and dedication of head coach Dusan Ansich, thank you for that, along with assistant coaches Patrick Smith, Ryan Gosby, Mike Ridge, Anthony Kachu, close enough, Brandon Stock, Dylan Beddard, oh, is that right? Oh, never mind, last year's staff. Honoring their commitment to the development. They did help develop this team, so there we go, right? It took many years to do this. Be it further proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Villa Park calls on all of our community to join with family and friends in the celebration and honoring of the 2012 Villa Park High School Century League Championship Spartans. Signed, Mayor of Villa Park, myself. You guys are awesome. Any words for us? Sure. It's all yours.
All
I'll introduce the players we have here today. We have on the very end sophomore Corey Garcia, very good technician. Next to him, a straight A student, Chad Catherine, played offensive line. Next to him is probably our strongest, one of the strongest guys in our football program right now. That's Alec Tumser. Next to him is Kyle Gorin, a senior, looking to go on to play college football. Next to him, probably the smartest kid in the sophomore class, Thomas Pearson, outstanding student. Next to him, also another straight A student, two-sport athlete, and great kid, Lane Ryder. We were 12-2 overall. Our JVs were 10-0 for the second year in a row, and our freshmen also won the league. So we're really proud of our team, and our school, I think, has the best administration around, very supportive of everything we do, and we've had phenomenal students as well. One of our players is going to go to Annapolis. Last year we have a kid at West Point. We'll have 4 kids in the Ivy League next year out of our senior class. So they're getting it done in the classroom, which is more important, and also on the football field. So good school to be a part of, and I'm proud to wear our school colors and be at this meeting. And thank you guys for honoring us, and we're looking forward to represent us again next year. Sound great?
Yeah.
All right.
Great speech.
We're proud to have all you guys, too.
Great speech.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. Tonight we have an update from the Orange County Human Relations Commission. Dr. Ahuja, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Would you please step to the podium?
I do not believe I see him in the audience.
Not here tonight. Okay. Well, we'll save that for later if he comes in. Let's see. It looks like our next presentation is going to be an update from the Villa Park Community Services Foundation. And I'm not sure who we have here tonight. Jill? All right.
Good evening. In this technology age, you need to have a password for everything. And so the password for the foundation for 2013 is happiness. You don't have to type it in. You can just smile as you're a volunteer here in the community and at all the events that we will plan soon. So we, at the foundation, we're very excited to have a wonderful 50th anniversary year. We're now in year number 51, and so we look forward to that as well. One of the things that we've been able to do through the foundation this year is to be able to support some grant requests. And you've probably seen our big checks in the newspaper or other places, but tonight we'd like to be able to give out a couple more big checks to our schools. Now, one of them is really near and dear to my heart. As a founding member of Villa Park High Grad Night, I am so happy that we can continue to support that in our community. It's a safe and sane evening. Our kids have a wonderful time, and I will tell you that many of them have told me it's always the best night of ever that they've had. Just fun times, no dates necessarily, just having fun and being crazy but also doing it in a sober way. So this year, we're very pleased to be able to give out a check for the grad night. So, wouldn't you know, it's because my grandson is going to Villa Park High School. He's a senior. He's going to go to grad night, and here's his mom, Mary Coolide. Come on up, Mary. Okay, we want to give you this wonderful check if we do this together for $1,000.
Wow.
We think that our treasurer, who's so tight with his money, really likes to see his name in print in a big way. like the real thing too.
And this is Kathy Ewing, who's in charge of graduating.
Oh,
I gave her the grant. So, thank you.
It'll be a wonderful time, I'm sure. It's not very fun.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, the PE department at Saravilla has some special needs, and so I'm really pleased to tell you that the foundation is able to provide another big check to Dr. Ken Miller from Saravilla. So come on down.
All right. I'm going to bring some of my friends with me here.
Okay, maybe you can tell a little bit what this
true
grant's going to
experts.
be for.
Well, this grant for technology, we know we're teaching to the 21st century students, and so we as teachers need to become 21st century teachers. And especially in the physical education department, trying to bring in technology. Students are now growing up using iPads and computers. So we requested for the grant receiving an iPad for our physical education department. Marilyn McCullough and myself, we go to workshops throughout the summers, and this last summer we were at a workshop where they were using iPads for fitness, and we thought we had a little fitness room we use, and it would be used very well in our fitness room with the students, using the iPad and using applications that we can use with the students with that.
You think I could skip going to the gym and I could just go on my iPad?
Still have to do the work.
Oh, doggone. Come on down.
Right.
From the foundation, we are happy. For a check for $800 for that wonderful iPad.
On behalf of Saravilla, I'd like to thank Mrs. School and the foundation, and thank you for having us in. We're very pleased. Jeff and Marilyn, they do amazing work with our kids in our community. We have I'd like to say, we have one of the most innovative physical education programs in the county. They'll never tell you that what we really do. They're amazing what they do, and they really do create a culture of lifelong learning through physical education. So we're very pleased, and I'm very privileged to work with them. They're true professionals. So thank you again very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say that the foundation is so pleased that the community has supported them through memberships, business sponsors, just volunteerism. So I thank all of you who have helped out so much to make this happen tonight. Remember the password.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so proud of our foundation. This is an example for all the citizens in Villa Park tonight to encourage you to become members of the foundation. Look at the wonderful things the foundation does. So I just encourage everyone to become in the membership, help support it. We have so many residents that are members, and we appreciate it, and our citizens appreciate it, our schools appreciate it, all the events we have. Foundation does a great job. Thank you so much. Let's see. Next, we're going to have a presentation. It's an update for the Friends of the Villa Park Library. And I'm guessing that might be Rich. No? Do we have a representative tonight? Doesn't look like it. All right. Let's see. It looks like our next presentation is a monthly update from the Orange County Fire Authority.
Mayor, Honorable Council, just real quickly, things are very good. We're happy over at the OCFA, so following the foundation there. We just started our Academy 38 for the new recruits, and there's a lot of promotions and retirements happening in the next few months. There'll be a little bit of turnover. A lot of the older guys like myself are moving on into the sunset, and them young bucks are coming up behind us. One thing we have noticed a few little incidents around the colder weather. People make sure you have the safe use of those space heaters if you're going to use them. Make sure you get your chimneys cleaned out and change your filters in your heaters. We've had some incidents, not necessarily right in Villa Park, but in the area related to those kind of things with the colder weather. So we had this opportunity to talk to citizens, and we'll just put a little plug in there for doing that. with that, that's our report, sir.
Great. Any questions for the chief?
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next, we're going to get an update from Lieutenant Gunzel.
Thank you very much. Just a few things to cover tonight. I got the year-end crime stats for the DOJ for the city. Totals, amazingly, for 2012 were exactly the same as the totals for 2011. It came to the numbers different, but the same number, 106 total crime-related Part 1 offenses for DOJ stats, 106 this year, 106 in 2011. This last month we had 6 total crimes reported. 3 were residential burglaries and 2 were thefts. The thefts generally come from the schools if iPads or iPhones or something of that nature are taken from backpacks. But so that's good news. 106 may seem like a large number, but in a 12-month period, it's actually pretty low for county standards. Also, in the 6-year comparison that I ran, the high of within 6 years was in 2008, which was 185 crime reports reported, to a low of in 2010 to 79. So, like I said, the last 2 years being 106. The second thing I just wanted to touch on, because I think there may be a public request coming out from the media, is the sheriff's response times. I just want to touch on this real quick because the way we take response times at the Sheriff's Department may be a little bit different than the way other agencies calculate them. The way we calculate response times is from the time the call taker picks up the phone until the deputy arrives at the door. Some people don't calculate it that way because they think the 2 minutes or whatever it takes for the dispatcher to get the call to the deputy doesn't count. Well, it does count because if you're sitting at your house waiting for a deputy to arrive, that 2 minutes counts. So, Sheriff Hutchins determined that a goal for the department would be 5 minutes for Priority 1 Code 3 responses. By the report, Villa Park for all of last year, Priority 1 responses was 5 minutes and 40 seconds. And take into account, that's not drive time. A lot of times guys are here within 2 minutes. But if you can imagine a frantic caller that calls and the call taker trying to get all the information out to put to the car, sometimes that takes a few minutes to get done, or 1 or 2 minutes. So it is the second lowest of all the contract cities in the county. Stanton being number 1, they're 12 seconds short of that. But so I was pretty happy with the numbers on the response times. They had a DUI task force saturation event this last weekend in Villa Park. I'm not sure if you saw additional units drive around, maybe with different city symbols and things on, but that's what they were doing, a DUI task force. And for obvious reasons, we don't print that publicly that we're going to be doing that. But so it was a North Patrol saturation, so they had Stanton and Villa Park. Just to compare the numbers, Villa Park had 2 vehicle stops for DUI related, but the drivers weren't arrested. Stanton had 91. So,
wow, 91! My gosh.
And the stats continued. I mean, through those stats, Stanton had 1 drug arrest. There was none in Villa Park. Suspended licenses, 1 in Stanton, none in Villa Park. Unlicensed drivers, there was 8 in Stanton. Again, none in Villa Park. 3 other citations, a 30-day impound, and 5 other towed vehicles, where the only stat on the sheet was 2 vehicles stopped in Villa Park. So things are looking pretty good. To that end, we had, speaking of DUIs, we had one of our deputies that opted to transfer to the new contract city of Yorba Linda. He worked nighttime here at Villa Park. Was sad to see him go because he was one of those guys that liked doing DUIs. He was out there all night making car stops and taking drunks off the road. That being said, we put out a recruitment, and just a little background on the position here. If you're not aware, those are hand-picked positions to come work the city. Can't just have anybody coming to work Villa Park. So I chose a young deputy that I've known since his days of being a deputy in the jail when I was a supervisor there. His name's Jeff Rollins, and next council meeting I'll introduce him to you folks. He's a really good guy, really even-keeled, nothing really gets him rattled, so I'm kind of excited to have him come start here. So That's all I have.
Great. Any questions for Rob, guys?
A couple of them. One of the issues we've been discussing about getting a master key for our school resource officer, which is a deputy, through the sheriff's department. Have we had any luck with getting that at this point for your SRO?
No, and that came up. We have 2 SROs for North Patrol. One is in charge of Foothill High School, Tustin Unified, and the other one is in Villa Park. And I wasn't aware of this issue until probably a month ago. We were discussing the SRO and after the Connecticut shootings about evacuation plans and preparation, and coming to find out that the school resource officer in Villa Park doesn't have a master key for the high school. So I began inquiring about that. The SRO in Foothill was shocked that he was just given a key by Tustin Unified, a master key for the school if he needs it. And, I approached Councilwoman Polly, and I called the school district initially and was told, they said no. So that's when I approached Councilwoman Polly, and I'm trying to make inroads with that. So far we haven't been successful that I know. I haven't talked to Deputy Cooper this week, but I don't think so far we've been successful in obtaining a key. To me, it's very important. It's something that every SRO should have, an emergency set for that school.
I agree. Quite frankly, until you told me, I did not realize that our SRO did not have a master key, and staff didn't either. They were just as surprised that you're the first person who's ever brought it to our attention. Of course, we've only had an SRO in the city for about 6 years now, but, as I've been, seriously, it's taken 6 years for this to ever be brought to our attention. But I think we're approaching it from a variety of angles. I think the council is pretty much in agreement that this is something that we want to push forward with. I know that staff is working with OUSD staff. Pete Moriarty, who's our CERT guy, is working with their child welfare and attendance, and we're going elected to elected. But we intend to continue pushing forward with that. As I was talking with Melanie about it, she was telling me that Sarah Villa, for instance, if they had a lockdown situation, that there would be no way for her to get into with her backup to protect the kids without going over the fence with rifles in their hands. And most administrators and professional teachers won't open the door for you. They figure if you're the police, you've got a key. And in fact, that was a report that came out of Sandy Hook, that the teacher had locked the door, had the kids on lockdown, had all the kids back in the closet. And a police officer, the thing had calmed down. The police officer had come and knocked on the door and said, "This is the police. I'm here to help you. Please open the door." She would not open the door. She said, "If you're the police, you would have a key." Right. And so the fact that our SRO has certainly gone through a substantial background check, probably more so than most of the janitorial staff on the school campuses. So we are working it, and we're trying really hard to be sure that she can provide the service that we need to take care of our kids if we have to.
Well, she has provided tours to all the East Side deputies when they were off on Christmas break. She brought all the East Side deputies to the campus, and they walked around, and they did as much as they could in an event. Here's where we're going to respond from. So they're doing the best they can with what they're provided. But yeah, and then when I stepped in, I was told that the district was afraid she would lose the key, and then they'd have to remake keys for the entire school, and so.
Well, we'll keep working it, Rob. We'd like to see that happen, obviously.
Yeah, I would too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have one added item to presentations. We have an upcoming Serrano Water Town Hall meeting. Rich, would you come up and give us a quick update on that, please?
Good evening, Mayor and council members, staff, people at home. I'm Rich Fresky. I'm with the Serrano Water Board. And I want to remind everybody that a week from this coming Thursday, we are going to have a town hall meeting here relative to Serrano. And we really, really want you all to come. We want you to become as proud of the water that we have as we are, because it's the safest water around, and certainly your supply is guaranteed. So please put it on your calendar, a week from Thursday, 7 o'clock. Make it a point to be here, will you? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. All right. We're now ready to move for oral communications on matters not otherwise appearing on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the City Council. If you wish to address the City Council, please step to the podium and state your name and address. Oral communications will be limited to 3 minutes for individual speakers. Do we have any speakers this evening? Oh, almost had none. And then Rich stood up, yeah.
I have that.
No, of course not.
I'm Rich Ulmer and live at 18550 Martinique Court in Villa Park. I came tonight not to say much about issues on the agenda, or for that matter, any issues at all. I came to say thanks to Supervisor Bill Campbell, who lives here in Villa Park and has for 30 plus years. When I first ran for council, I was told by a couple of wise folks in the city to go and visit with Bill, find out what city government and what he did were all about. And I did that, and I spent a lovely evening with him and his family. It was really a pleasure, and I was encouraged by Bill to run for city council. And 8 of his 10 years as a supervisor, I had the pleasure of working not exactly alongside of him, but I actually live right across the street from Bill. So I just wanted to say that this past week, I may even be behind the power curve here a bit, but I read an article in the Register, and in it, Bill Campbell is quoted as saying, "I can honestly say that I've enjoyed every minute of it." So 10 years as a supervisor in Orange County. During those years, when I was new on the city council, we had LAFCO, which is a state-appointed board. Is that right, Jared, I think? Do a analysis called a sphere of influence, in which they look at a city's size and its financial condition and decide whether or not it has a future. In other words, they make recommendations up the line that cities be merged. And I'll be doggone if in my second year as council, they didn't do that for Villa Park. Now, the city with which we were recommended to merge shall go unnamed, but at the end of the day, we left them a long time ago. And frankly, today they're tens of millions of dollars in debt, and we're the only city among 33 in Orange County that don't have an unfunded liability. And we have over $1 million in reserves. And we had no reserves in the late 90s. So it's all within the last 10 to 12 years that this has happened. And we are the business model that most cities should follow, frankly, going forward. Anyway, Bill Campbell came down and spoke to a crowded room, much more crowded than this one tonight, and put everyone's mind at ease. It was just tremendous to know that one of the supervisors in Orange County not only lived here, but was willing to go to bat and fight for us. On other occasions, we've had the cannon wall fall. Yes, there have been 2. And each time, Bill Campbell stepped up along with a gentleman named Don Powell, who was pinch hitting then as a city manager, and managed to corral some monies for us when facing the better part of $500,000 of repairs in both instances. So without Bill Campbell fighting for us, without him as the loyal supervisor that he was from Villa Park, I just would suggest to the council they take a look at maybe giving him some kind of honor after he's out of office. I'm not, as I said, I don't know exactly when that'll be, but this week they announced it in the Register, and I wanted to come and say my personal thanks. He came and gave a plaque to Bill McAloney, and to me that had nothing to do with this. I would have done it without that. But he's just a terrific man, and if you see him in the community, I hope you'll say hello and thank you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Rich. Well, I definitely echo those sentiments, and we definitely will do that. Wouldn't forget him. He's done a lot of good things for us. Any other folks want to come up and say anything? All right. We are ready to move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and usually enacted by one motion, approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. Any member of the City Council, staff, or the public may request to have an item removed from the consent calendar for discussion or separate action. Council members, are there any items that you'd like to have removed from the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull 4
Okay.
and 10.
Any others?
Do you have any to pull? I'll pull items 1, 9, and 11.
1, 9, and 11. Okay. All right. Can I get a motion on the ballots?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
I apologize. I didn't hear the.
It looks like the motion is to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
The maker of the motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It was Greg.
Greg.
Forgive me
Deborah.
with my voice as well.
You know,
Councilmember
mine's
Mills.
feeling kind of shaky tonight, too. I heard you coughing, too, young lady. So I don't know. Boy,
City Hall's
Had
going
a
to be
good
shut
weekend.
down.
I think I got it from Jared.
Councilmember Mills. Aye. Councilmember Pauly.
Yes.
Councilmember Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes, thank you. Okay, starting at the top, I guess we'll go in numerical order. Deborah, number 1.
This is the warrants and disbursements, and I just have a couple of really quick questions. Jared should be ready for them if he can talk. The first one was from January 9th, item 1504, which is our credit card. It was somewhat unusual for me to see Ryan Smoot's Visa at $3,627, so that jumped out at me, and I wondered, what was that for?
I'll ask Michelle to answer this one.
That's because we have 2 new council members that attended the new training in Sacramento. So registration and flight. Along with that is our budget award. Our budget, our CAFR award. We have the combination of the flights and the registration. And the registration for the CAFR is $2,000. So
It
all
costs
of it.
$2,000? What are you talking?
No. The combination of all 3. The $370 is for the CAFR awards. What they do is you send it to GFOA to make sure that it's in compliance.
Okay.
And then it's the award fee that you have to pay. And then we had both new members go to the new training, and it was $1,100 combined for the 2 of them. And you'll see that on our time and travel in the back. You'll see that.
Okay.
And then flights.
Okay. So that was for the League of Cities. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct. So it's $2,000 total. So basically, it's normal $1,600. Brings it down the credit card bill down to $1,600, which is normal.
Okay.
But
It's one of those things that you kind of go, okay, that's a bit much. What are you
He was
doing?
shopping.
Buying your wife some new gifts? What's going on? All right, great. I'm glad it was something simple. And then moving on a couple more pages back, we're looking at December 17th, down at the very bottom of page 1. Signs and supplies for the Sanatour, $353. Is that something that the foundation covers, or how does that work?
I'm assuming so, but what page are you looking at?
I'm on page 1 of the it's a check run.
Of December.
1217.
Oh, 1217. Got it.
Item 20 or 3028.
There were two check runs that day. So
Yeah.
it's,
It's for Sanatour and Boat Parade lights.
that is something that
I don't. What
we
page
pass through to the foundation. So Mike orders all the supplies, as Mike is a big supporter and provides a lot of the labor setting up that Sanatour and the boat parade. So he charges it to his credit card, or in this case with SC Signs and Supplies, we have a 30-day account and they bill us at the end every month. So this was a invoice that we received and we passed through to the
Yes.
foundation.
Is a pass-through. Sorry, I couldn't find what page. I'm like 12.
So what then? Do you send a bill to the foundation
Yes.
for them to then pay?
Yes, after we pay it, because it's on our. Mike is the one that supersedes it or manages it. We get all the invoices in the city's name, and they are approved through the foundation, and we pay for them, and then we submit a bill. And of course, as Mrs. Kulai said, Mr. Nelson's very prompt, and we get them within days. So it's not an issue at all.
And staff time isn't covered in that. What about overtime for Mike? Is that covered in those kinds of things as well?
Yeah, you won't see it here, but in his, obviously, when he spends extra overtime for foundation events, we split the time with them.
That's fair.
It is.
Very good. Thank you. Then the last item on that, the very next page, just look the next page over, 1328. Originally, I was going to go to the Orange County Fire Authority's Best and Bravest Award Dinner. I had put down that I was going to attend, but that was at the end of last year, and now I think Mr. Barnett is taking that seat instead.
Oh, okay.
So that could be changed there, and also in the back, where you're keeping a log of council member
Absolutely.
expenditures. So that would go under his line item. It's only
Okay.
appropriate that since
Sure.
he's now the director, he should be attending. That's all I have on those. Thank you.
Great. Would you like to make a motion? on that
I'll
one?
move it.
Okay, I'll second it. For item 1, Ryan?
Yes. Councilmember Polly.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Councilmember Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilmember Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I thought we're trying to save your voice on that. Or do you officially have to do it, Jared?
I'll take him just to.
All right. Tried to help you out. Let's see, the next item down the list is item 4. Rick? Rosanne Circle?
Yep, this is the infamous Rosanne Circle matter. I had, other than just try and maybe get a little update, I had a couple of questions. One, when did the $1,000 penalty become effective? Do you know? What?
Yeah, a letter was sent at the beginning of the month, and they have 30 days to abate the nuisance per that letter. So it goes effect, I don't know what day we sent it, early February?
It was January 3rd. It was sent out to them. They have 30 days. It's California Civil Code.
Okay, so it's not effective yet. Okay. And are they in compliance yet, or are there still items?
Well, actually, that's what I was talking to Mr. Reed earlier about. I spoke to the realtor this morning on the property, and effectively the health and safety issues have, for the most part, been addressed. All the debris on the side of the house has been removed. All the debris in the rear yard has been removed. All the debris in the garage has been removed. The broken windows in the garage have been at least temporarily boarded up to secure it. The front door now has locks on it, which it didn't before. The front porch has been, the plywood that was there has been removed. So, I mean, there's significant progress that's been made. The weeds have been cut. That doesn't mean that there's not still ongoing issues with it that I'm working to address with the realtor and the banks as well. But as of right now, the property is on the market. They held an open house, I believe, Saturday, and they have, I was told today, they have one offer so far, and that's in the process of the bank considering that offer. So,
Do we still have any nuisance items open, or they've cleared them all?
well, as far as the nuisance, it's still open. We're keeping it open just in case. But the health and safety at this point has been addressed. They've been pretty on top of that. So,
Okay. I don't know if it's a good time, but I'd
Yeah,
love to hear.
Would you like to mention some
I'd love
comments?
to hear from the
Towne
neighbors.
Reed at 18071 Rosanne Circle, and we just wanted to come, my wife and I just wanted to come and thank the city council and Ryan and Jared and for all their hard work. It appears that all of the issues that were immediate that needed to be addressed have been addressed. They had they've been having a lot of people working on it, coming by, looking at it, and talking to the neighbors in the middle of the street last night on Sunday before the council meeting here. We all agreed, and we wanted to say thank you very much for addressing it, keeping it open, and staying on top of it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions, Rick, on that, or
Nope,
we're good?
that took care of it for me.
Would you
I
like to make a motion on that item?
Yep, I'll move to clear that one.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Greg?
Just a voice vote on that one.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great. Okay. It looks like the next item, Deb, is yours, number 9.
This is, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the notice of completion on the City Hall facade, the entire demolition and construction project, and I had some questions about that. I feel terrible asking Jared any questions right now because
I know I did too, actually.
but he whispered all of his answers to me. It's hard for me to wrap my hands around the fact that we are going to issue a notice of completion and pay this thing off when we know we have outstanding issues with buckling concrete. I'm having a really hard time dealing with that. And I understand, that it might be more trouble than it's worth because you've gone through the effort. You asked them to, why don't you explain to me what you did and then how you've gone out to bid and what the best bids look like?
The facade project has been completed for quite some time now. Unfortunately, we're having some issues with the concrete uplifting due to the expanding soil conditions that we have underneath us and much throughout the city. What's unfortunate for us is it was built per the plans and specs. They constructed it as they should and as the plans called for. Hindsight, we should have prepared a soils report prior to construction. The soils report would have shown that we had expansive soil and needed to construct it in such a way to allow for that. Excavate 3 feet, bring in some, I don't know what engineers call it, class 2 sub road base, not expansive rock. Anyways, we're looking to get that corrected with Falcon right now. What the issue on hand is it a warranty item or is it a workmanship item? One could argue that it is workmanship because, you know, look at it, it's already cracking and it's lifting, which is the case that we're going to take. We're choosing to file the notice of completion right now because, you know, our hands are tied. They completed the project per the plans and specs. After this, I'm going to file that warranty claim. We'll see what happens there. In the meantime, before, you know, all this, what led to this path is to correct the issue. We went out to bid for concrete repair. Informal bidding procedures. Falcon came back at about $18,000, essentially to chunk up the concrete, demo it, dig out 3 feet, come back in with that class 2 road base and re-pour the concrete. The second lowest bid was in the amount of $27,000. The third lowest bid was in the amount of $31,000, and then the highest bid was $39,000. I'm in no hurry to spend another $39,000 to correct this. So right now I'd like to file the notice of completion, submit the warranty claim, see where that brings us. I really don't want to go to court and sue them because that will just eat up all the savings that we had on this project. If Falcon chooses not to complete it under the warranty project, then we'll go out for formal bids, and my thought is to look at pavers. If we look at pavers as opposed to concrete, pavers are more porous and would allow for the moisture in the soil that's collecting to evaporate. Because right now, I don't know why it's silly, is it sits over the soil. There's a moisture barrier, which there's no need to, you know, have installed right now, and that's just holding that moisture, trapping it, and acting like a pond. So just.
Well, I know all of this was really before you were city manager, and you kind of inherited a situation. It's unfortunate that it wasn't handled, you know, properly, quite frankly. They have the option of saying, yeah, we'll go ahead and cover this under the warranty or not.
It's more their surety would have that discussion. We'd have that discussion with. And it is sort of weird that you're saying, okay, we're complete, but we still have problems with what you did.
Yeah.
But it's a way to get to the next phase of potentially getting it fixed. There are certain subcontractors that still haven't been paid, and the only way they get paid, and they keep pestering us, is if there is a notice of completion. Mm-hmm. There are arguments, which I'm not going to state on the public record, back and forth. If we were not to do the notice of completion and we were to, say, get into a dispute with them, whether we'd be successful or not, given the language of the specs and the plans and what was done. So, yes, you could dispute that they did things correctly, but just given the efficiencies of it and the fees that would be attendant to any type of dispute, it's not warranted because of the small dollar amount. So when you put that all into collection, the best process at this point in time would be, as staff recommends, to do the notice of completion so we can begin to investigate and perhaps get some resolution on these matters prospectively.
We've been paying them all along something along the way, right? Correct?
You
They've
make,
hit certain points.
you make progress payments,
Okay.
yes.
But this releases then $398,000, knowing full and well that we're probably going to have to pay about $27,000. This is. I probably doesn't work because I know the government doesn't make sense. But if it were me and I was a private citizen, I would withhold that amount that I know I'm going to have to spend. Can we do that? Can we as a governmental entity do that? Say, you know what? I'm going to have to spend $27,000 to fix the job that we just spent $400,000 on. Can it be done? It's a better going in bargaining point than saying, here, you have all the money, and then you tell us yes or no.
Anything can be done. It's always ramifications of what you do that are the problem. So that would immediately trigger a response on the other side's part saying you can't do that, and we would be in the same place. Whether it's better to have the money than to ask for it back, I mean, that's a fair point.
Exactly.
But if the overall economics of the situation don't favor that process in the first place, why start it by withholding the money? I suppose would be my argument.
So your recommendation as our legal counsel is to just go ahead and pay for it.
I have a concern here, Mr. Mayor. I think this may be eroding into confidential city attorney-client issues. I think we're getting close to that.
That's true,
If you think not, counsel can let me know, but I have a concern with that at this point.
Oh, well, okay, if you want to go in closed session, and I can tell you whether I think you can sue them, we can do that. I mean, I think I pretty much said that right now, and I don't think we need to do that. But if you feel more comfortable, ask me questions in private. This triggers a significant exposure to litigation, which would authorize going into closed session, if you want.
I think, frankly, there's been discussion on this in closed session. I'm not really sure why we're dealing with these issues here. It doesn't really seem appropriate.
Because
It seems duplicative, too.
Here's the thing. We're getting ready to say, okay, this job has been completed, and we're spending almost $400,000 of taxpayers' money, knowing full and well that we've got a problem out there that's going to have to be addressed, that's going to cost probably around $27,000 to fix. And we have no guarantee doing it this way that they're going to make it right. I'm just asking the question.
Well, I think the problem is, first of all, there's bids out for substantially less than $27,000. Secondly, this matter has been considered in private session. I'm really not sure what the purpose of this is or where you're going with this. I think it's duplicative and at this point kind of pointless. We've been through this. So I'm not really sure why you're taking public session time up to discuss it. I don't understand it.
If I may, too, I would like to point out
transparent.
that in the staff report, the final construction costs, the fourth item, or the third item down, has the estimated concrete cost built in at $20,000 already. So the total cost was about $79,000 for design, engineering, construction management. Total construction costs to the state were $299,000 some change. And then we've already built in the estimated concrete repair costs at $20,000, bringing the total to $398,000. So I'm hoping a bid for pavers will come back around without excavating and doing it properly. We'll come back in below that $20,000 threshold, so we should be right at the $400,000 mark.
I don't think you've done a bad job handling the situation that you've been handed, Jared. Thank you for handling it well. I just have a difficult time saying that this job has been completed when it really hasn't.
It's a bit screwy. I agree.
But it has to go in that order, basically.
I recommend to go in this order, but I
Right.
understand why one would question that.
So can you file the notice of completion and withhold a certain amount of money?
That was my question.
When you file notice of completion,
And you're saying we can't?
well, I'm saying you can, but if you were, that would trigger the same result of potential litigation. So if we did do that, that's possible. When you do a notice of completion, you usually withhold a certain retention anyway, because it triggers a time period to file something called a stop notice.
Mm-hmm.
A stop notice is something that a subcontractor files to say, I haven't been paid yet, and the city's supposed to retain X amount of dollars to make sure they get paid. So it triggers that time period. So there's a little bit of money left over, but we already know because we have one person, the glass guy, right?
We have, this is the second person on this job that is, they paid the first one, and the glass guy is the second one.
Right, and he's the one who hasn't been paid yet.
And
So,
the third.
Excuse me.
The third? Oh, I only saw two.
okay, well, the point being, there is a certain amount of money that will be retained, but usually when you do a notice of completion, you do pay X amount minus that retention. So it would be atypical to withhold additional money to remedy this problem.
The retention in this case is
$15,000.
$15,000?
Yes.
That will withhold?
Which is almost what you're suspecting. Okay.
Well, and their own bid is $18,000
Yeah.
if they were to
Yeah.
do it.
Well,
so.
do we want them to do it?
Yeah, right.
I understand that.
You know, and it's, how do I say this? The contractor's bid that the council accepted, which the council had to accept because it was the lowest bid, that's how it works, was substantially less than other bids, if I remember correctly, that we received. And you are forced to accept a bid if it's A, responsive, i.e. it hits all the checkpoints that were in the bid, and B, it's a responsible bidder, i.e. They have the permits, the knowledge, and the background and recommendations to complete such work in a professional manner. One could argue prospectively that now there is some evidence that maybe Falcon is not the most responsible bidder for any such future projects, given the events that have transpired. For what it's worth.
Thank you. I'm satisfied with your answers. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion on item 9?
I'm not going to make the motion to move it.
Okay.
I will.
All right,
Second.
Deanna. Greg, thank you.
Councilmember Fascinelli?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett?
Yes.
Members?
Yes, thank you very much. Item 10, Rick.
The only reason I pulled this is because this referred to the some of the town hall meetings on these issues, and I just want to see if it's appropriate. I'd love to get a 15-second synopsis of, how heavily were these things attended? Was there any clear consensus that was shown? That's really about all my questions, because I wasn't able to make it. I was working, and I'm just kind of curious to see how heavily attended it was, and if there was some major community consensus on any issue or anything interesting maybe we ought to hear about.
I will pass this one off to Ryan Smith.
We've had 2 of those meetings. We have 2 more coming up next week. The first one we had probably 15, 20 people maybe? Yeah, so maybe 20, 25 people or so. The second one was significantly smaller, but a couple newer people that needed the information as well. So I think both were good in their own right. We had a lot of information going back and forth, and we received a lot of input from property owners, residents, and business owners. So I think it helped to clarify what we're trying to do and where we're going, and what some of those property owners and business owners would like to see. So I'm sure Jennifer, when all is said and done, will be bringing a report to you as to, kind of bullet points as to what came out of those. So this is the beginning of a long process, I'm sure, but hopefully we can speed it up some.
Great.
I'm good.
Okay.
Is Jennifer still on track to join us and give us an update later today in this meeting, or? I know she had to be in another city tonight.
Yeah, she's with another city right now. I haven't got a text from her, so maybe she's underway, maybe she's still in her city. She did mention that she'll be giving a report under the Villa Park team report tonight if she's here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this item 10, Rick, looks like a receive and file.
Yep.
So I guess all in favor, say aye.
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 Great, thank you. Item 11, Deb, that's yourself.
Thank you. This is something that I've requested staff to put together. Through the course of working with Pete Moriarty and revitalizing the CERT program, and working with Orange Unified School District and trying to coordinate, what efforts we might have to make to help them with their schools in the event of emergency. Pete has done an amazing job. He went over there immediately and got, himself in a great relationship with Mike Pollock, who runs Child Welfare and Attendance, is in charge of, their emergency preparation at our schools. He managed to get a complete copy of their, emergency plan for those school sites that they have here on site. And when he was working with them, found out that they actually have when they convene an emergency situation, much like they do at any other headquarters, they have a situation that they set up over at OUSD headquarters, and Mike Pollock offered to provide a seat for the city of Villa Park, so that they would be around that table in the event of an emergency as well, for part of that coordination. And when we were talking about the situation in the city of Villa Park, if you were to send someone from staff, that means we'd lose our city manager or our assistant to the city manager, and that just wouldn't work out. We talked to Pete and asked him if he might be willing to be that individual representing the city of Villa Park at that seat in the event of an emergency, and he has agreed to do that. And so, to make it official and formal, we should do that by an act of the council. He's highly qualified, probably more than anyone really recognizes because of his background in the military. And so I was polling this primarily to make a couple of changes in the resolution that need to be made, and then giving Pete an opportunity to talk about what's going on with CERT this weekend. So I don't know if you have any questions about what we're doing here. and if you're in agreement that this is a good thing for us to have in place.
It is a good thing.
Pete, we were talking earlier, I think there's some confusion in the resolution. This isn't actually a Villa Park CERT seat. This is actually a seat designated for the city of Villa Park, but we are actually asking you to do it since we are so short-handed.
That is correct.
Okay.
The Operations Center, this is the Operations Center of the Orange Unified School District. The area that it covers, the geographic area that it covers, is the geographic area of the OUSD schools. So it not only covers Villa Park, but covers a significant geographic area outside of that. Point is that they have a very impressive setup there, a set of communications, television feeds, and all sorts of representation from various contingency services. And one of the things that they have is a space for local communities, Villa Park being one. And I asked, could we have that seat? And he said, by all means. So it is a Villa Park representative to the OUSD Operations Center that we're talking about here. It would be activated in time of need based on basically the same as the CERT program whenever local emergency services or utility services and were impacted or disrupted, and whenever there was a lockdown of some major degree, they would activate that operations center for keeping track of the situation. And that's the same type of thing that we would be involved in that same time. So it just seemed to be a fit for the city to have that kind of access and get that kind of information access available to the city.
Real-time information, and then you'd be able to get back to city staff with it right away and knowing what's going on and what we might be able to do to help out. This is wonderful. No one's ever taken this kind of initiative before, Pete, and I'm just so thankful that you've done it. I think we need to make a couple of changes to the resolution. The last line here where it says to be the OUSD Emergency Operations Center representative from the just city of Villa Park. And then the third line where it says, whereas Orange Unified School District, just take out, has requested Villa Park CERT, just take out the word CERT. And I think with those corrections, then it would be accurately reflected. And if you pass this, I hope we would then send this over to OUSD so that they recognize that Pete Moriarty is our representative. In the event of an emergency, we need to be prepared, right?
I'll note there's actually one more spot down below in Section 1.
Section 1, yes, but he is actually from the Villa Park CERT program, so that's actually accurate. But he would be filling the actual Villa Park city seat.
Correct.
As in Orange. Orange probably has professional staffer. Anaheim has a professional staffer. They've got lots of staff. They got lots of bills too. But and I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to move this. Don't go anywhere yet, Pete. I'd like to make a motion to move this. Did you have questions?
I have one question. And the term of this is what?
Oh, that's a good question.
1 year, 2 year, 3 year? How does that work?
How about until another person's appointed? Huh?
For as long as Pete wants.
Yeah, there you go.
How about just until further action of the city council?
Okay.
Something
You could just add that in there. That's a good point.
I'm really glad you brought this up, Pete. It's a great idea.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, too.
Yeah.
Pete, what happens to that center if all the power goes out? Just out of curiosity.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You'd indicated this is a great, central TV command center, and I was just curious, if the power does all go out, what happens to that command center and all those TV links?
To the extent that we have battery service and backup power, we would go on that. They have some backup power there now. How much they have there, I don't know, but they do have some. There are a lot of the services that switch over to battery power, and that's the most acceptable answer as long as the batteries hold out. For example, the little handheld radios that we have, they have to be charged periodically, but we can use them until they discharge. If we run into a Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Katrina type thing, you're talking about 6 weeks or something like that without power, in which case we're all in a world of hurt. So we just have to hope that our emergency is of shorter duration than Sandy was.
Yeah.
There's no other answer.
Is this closed circuit stuff, or is this just broadcast TV stuff? What's this linked to?
There's some of each.
Because the closed circuit, you'll lose everything. It doesn't have power at the other end, too, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
As a note, the school district has offered to give council and staff a brief tour of the EOC if you'd like, as well as the sheriff's department's offered to give us a brief tour of the larger county EOC, which is an excellent opportunity if any of you are interested in doing so.
Yeah, it really is.
We probably should get that arranged quickly for the new council. It's one of the first things I think we went on when we first, one of the first things we did. It's really important to know.
Well worth going to.
I think we should. Any other questions on this? Okay, so then I'd like to move this resolution with the addition of, at the end of section 1, just says until further action of the council. Is that about right, Deanna? Yep. Okay.
I'll second it. Pete, would you like to plug the upcoming CERT meetings?
What, can we vote?
Or, we can go ahead and vote first.
And then we'll have.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Pauly.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Councilmember Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilmember Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Great. Up and coming CERT event, Pete. Do you want to plug that for us?
Yes, please. Thank you. And we do have an activity coming up this Saturday, the 26th, what we call a CERT Light program. The CERT is Community Emergency Response Team. The basic CERT training is 20 hours. Because we have so many people who had said, if it took less time than that, maybe I could take part in it. And we're giving them a chance now. So we've cut it down from 20 hours to 8 hours to see if that would be acceptable. So we have 8 hours on Saturday the 26th. I'm sorry, we have 4 hours on Saturday the 26th and 4 hours on Saturday the 2nd of February. So a total of 8 hours for this 2-week program. The first week, Saturday the 26th, is primarily an OCFD. Captain Larry Kurtz will be the instructor. There'll be primarily fire authority related actions such as fire items, there's disaster medical operations, light search and rescue activities. The second session on Saturday the 2nd of February starts off with a Sheriff's Department representative on security precautions, implications of terrorism. Then we go into earthquake hazards and building the survival kit and having a survivability checklist in each home and encouraging people to stockpile certain critical items so that if an access was cut off, and they would have the necessary things to take care of themselves. Basically, the entire CERT program is oriented on helping people prepare to take care of themselves in those cases where public services, emergency services are either disrupted or saturated in some manner, no matter what the cause. But it's helping people to be ready to help themselves. And we encourage people to take part in this. Saturday, the 26th of January is the first opportunity. 9 o'clock in the morning here in this room. So everyone is invited.
Free of charge.
That's this Saturday, correct, Pete?
Yeah.
This Saturday.
This Saturday, free of charge.
Free of charge. It's
no
such,
charge.
Such a great benefit.
Don't even need to bring any materials. We'll give you any materials that you need. And just come and take part in what you see while you're here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you for stepping up and doing such a great job.
My pleasure. I appreciate the support given by the members of the council. Thank you.
You bet. All right. At this time, we're going to move to new business. Sure, you may. You bet.
You mentioned something about radios and batteries and flashlights. By the way, James Brown, Villa Park, 18552 Mendocino. My wife's one of those nuts that want to be prepared for 100 years. And she has ordered, which is available, very expensive, a flashlight that has a radio, has a different kind of lights on it, emergency lights, and other methods of contacting, like the police. And it's got a crank on it. It's a self-charging battery, and it's only $19. in
Wow.
the email. You can order it. And there's also a radio that's the same thing, and it's $19.95 also, with a crank, battery, has flashlights, everything on it. It's better than an automobile. But anyway, in support of that. And while I'm up here, I would like to say, and by the way, something that for anyone, my wife found somewhere where she bought about a 70-gallon plastic water type drum, and we keep it full of water, which you can boil to sterilize it later on if you want. And things like that for an emergency. I think there should be a list and something come out that would tell the neighbors, because a lot of people do not know how to get these things, and find out how to notify with some kind of a bulletin for that. Because like food, there's a lot of non-spoiling food. We've got enough for a year if somebody wants to come to our house in case of an emergency. While I'm up here, if I can make one comment back on item 10.
Go ahead.
Be quick.
Real fast.
I like to compliment Deborah Paula. She was the only council member that attended the meetings that we had, those 2 meetings. And she said she was there because she wanted to hear what the people had to say. And I think there should be more council meetings. People come to that. So just a comment. The other thing is, after those meetings, I went and talked to as many friends I could in Villa Park and took a survey of neighbors and some non-neighbors, about 50 or 60 people. And of all the people I asked them, I would say all but one said they wanted a town center, service center, not a bank. The one that did not have an opinion just didn't have an opinion. So that gives another indication, and according to what this gentleman spoke over here, it was, I think everyone was in the meetings in favor of keeping the service center and not having a fourth bank. So just a comment.
Great. Thank you, James. All right. This is under new business. We're going to consider a request for proposal to prepare a comprehensive citywide fees and charges rate study. Council members, I know you've read the report. Are there any questions of staff on this? I don't imagine you'd have them since we've all looked at that already. So I'd like to go ahead and ask the folks here in attendance if they have any comments or thoughts on this. I guess I won't make you speak on this. Just real quick so everyone knows what we're talking about. Cities charge fees for services like permits on your home and for our building inspector to go out and look at things. And this is something we haven't looked at in a long, long time. Cities are not allowed to make a profit on this. Cities they're not supposed to lose money either. It's supposed to be a pass-through. And I believe the last time our rate schedule actually is back from 1992, I believe, Jared, is that correct?
Our planning and development fees are approximately from 1992-94.
Okay.
Well, fees have been adjusted occasionally. I think the last time we looked at planning and development fees were in 2008, but that was just a minimal bump from the 1994 mark.
Okay.
You're doing a heck of a job at it, explaining the staff report.
So basically, we want to go out to people who are specialists in this field and have them review what our charges are and what is customary in the marketplace out there for these types of services, and come back to us with recommendations of where we are. Certainly, as a city, we just want to pass it through. We're not allowed to make money on it. We don't want to make money on it. But it seems like we're probably on the lower end of charging, meaning that we're all paying staff to do all this work, and we're actually losing the money on the deal. So we need to have it studied so that we know where we're at, and then we have a baseline. So that is it. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the item? Seeing none, are there any further questions or any questions at all from staff?
Already asked my questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we had talked about this a little while ago.
Right. I have a kind of a slightly different perspective on this,
Okay.
as is often the case. I wanted to know where this was coming from, and Jared explained it to me quite adequately. You're right, we haven't done this in a long time. But the way I see it is this. We're going to spend between $5,000 and $10,000 of taxpayer money to hire a consultant to go figure out how we can charge our residents more money.
Can I just back up real quick? We're not spending any money on this. We're just getting a
We're
proposal.
going to go out to
if
bid.
If it makes sense.
We're heading down the
Okay,
road.
I
We're
just
heading
wanna
down
make
a
sure.
road. We're heading down a road. I understand. You're right.
Okay.
We're not spending any
Yeah,
money
there's no
right
money
now.
being spent.
We're just saying go out and find out. You know, if we
Does
can
it make
hire a
sense?
consultant
Yeah.
between $5,000 and $10,000, when you're hiring that professional, what you're trying to get, it's obvious. The goal is to figure out how far up we should be ratcheting the fees that we're charging our residents for CUPs and for, building permits and getting up to code and whatever they're doing. Because it's clear as it's written out here. I mean, that's what your objective is going to be. Doesn't mean if he comes in and says, man, you shouldn't be charging $50 for that. You should be charging $500 for that. We don't have to do it. But we're spending the money to find out. And it says that they're going to compare to other neighboring cities that are comparable to Villa Park. First of all, there is no city comparable to Villa Park. So that's an impossibility right there. And I'm not necessarily interested in following the other cities, off a cliff. I pride myself in the fact that our fees are low, that people come in, they can get their work taken care of quickly without a bunch of bureaucracy and money. They already pay taxes. People come and go all the time. It could be something as simple as replacing your water heater. You have to come down here and get that taken care of. I like that we don't have to pay a lot. And every single time somebody comes in here and pulls a permit to make improvements to their property, that improves the value of that property, and it improves the bottom line, our primary revenue stream, which is property tax revenue, right? So anything that we do that discourages them by charging more actually is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. If you charge people more in the front end, they're not as apt to go ahead and do that work. And then that long-term profit that we actually will make because, wow, you've made this improvement, and now your property taxes are going up, not just this year, but every year. So anything we do that discourages people improving their properties by ratcheting up fees and fines or fees and permit costs for everything, I'm not into. So that's kind of my take on this thing. I know that governments are great at doing it, but people already pay their taxes. And they probably feel like they should be able to come in here, pull a permit real quick. That's why they live in Villa Park and not Irvine. No offense to Irvine. But that's my take on it.
So,
anyway.
Deborah, are you suggesting
I'm suggesting we shouldn't be doing it.
We don't study it and see where we're at on this?
Well, the only purpose in studying it, of course, if he feels that this is what I think that if there are specific areas, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we've hired now Bill Tarrant, we all love Bill, and we're trying to keep him afloat, right? We need to be sure that we're bringing in enough money to pay him to keep him on board. If they feel that there are specific areas that they need to increase just those couple of fees, bring those forward and let us go ahead and make those determinations. You can look at what other cities are paying. Send the intern and get them online and say, we want you to go to these 10 cities and find out what they're charging for this. We don't need to hire somebody for 10 grand to do it. That's why we have interns.
We're not hiring them yet.
But that's what we're preparing to do.
Okay, hold on. Deanna, go ahead, please.
I don't think that's what we're trying to do, because I don't want to see fees ratcheted also. But I think we have a duty not to subsidize the fees also.
Correct.
If it's costing us $78.22 to issue a building permit, and we're only charging $25, then you've got 50 residents who have never pulled a building permit the entire time they've been here saying, wait a minute, why am I paying taxes to subsidize my neighbor who is pulling a building permit? I think we need to look at that, because you can't compare us to Newport Beach, and I certainly don't want to do that. But the study should look at our city and how much it costs to pull a building permit. Not Irvine, not Newport Beach, not Costa Mesa. And maybe that's what we need to look at. What does this firm do? Instead of comparing to the cities, just come in here and look at our internal books and see how much it costs us to do it.
And that's part of RFP. He calls for a full cost allocation plan, which is just that, where they'll interview myself, Ryan, Michelle, Akram, Jennifer, Bill, on how long it does take for a water heater permit. Right now it's a $50, maybe $80 permit fee, and I don't see that changing because it's done, 15, 30 minutes over the counter, and then Bill goes out there, does a half-hour inspection, and, you have an hour's time. But a conditional use permit here in the city is $600 with all the staff time that goes into that. I can tell you we're losing quite a bit of money on that. And that is a fee specific to an individual. It's not to the community as a whole, as you put it best. Just looking for, and the money that we save from there and recover, you could be put back into the community. Now all of a sudden we have an extra $15,000 and can add beautification around the community with, it frees up a couple more neighborhood identification signs. I mean, it's something that I think we need to be done. That needs to be done here. That's just my recommendation.
Do you have some comments?
Yeah, I do. I generally agreed with Deborah's comments, and I took issue with Jared with this initially. In fact, I think you and I both did. But I thought about it afterwards, and the issue of no profit and loss, or certainly no profit on as best you can, you've really got to allocate the cost to make it legal. You can't just go out and trump up some numbers to kind of get where you want, because then you're not in compliance with the law on how you charge the fee. And that was the problem that really came to light. So if they can do an analysis of the costs and kind of tell us where we're at, then I think we can look at it and make some logical decisions as to what we need to do. While I agreed with Deborah initially, same thoughts I had when I first heard it, Deanna's comments come to mind quickly thereafter, which is people have been sitting here, maybe retired, don't have a lot of money, been in their house, they have a low tax base, and should they be subsidizing the cost of people developing and putting millions of dollars in houses or building them? And that's probably not fair either. So it seems to me to stay in compliance, you probably have to get the analysis so you know you're within legal bounds, and then we can temper it from there. And even to that extent, all we're doing here is getting a proposal to see what it's going to cost. And if it does get really expensive, it's going to, I think it's going to get revisited. At least that's kind of my thought.
We can temper it on the lower side, but not the upper side.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So I think that getting the request for proposal out to see what it'll cost to get the evaluation probably makes sense. That's my thought.
Thank you, Rick.
How much money do we collect a year in these types of? Sorry, how much money do we collect a year in these fees? Michelle?
On building permit
total
fees, $150,000 this year.
You're right.
$150,000
for building. Yeah, that's
just the building.
Largest, right?
And that's the majority of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Rich, did you have something? You were up there. Sorry you had to stay there so long.
That's okay. Yes, I'm Rich Fresky, 10151 Phelan Drive, Villa Park. It seems to me that you can't charge any more than 35%, if I recall correctly, above what the charges are that you incur. If that's the case, then all the data that you have, that you need, is right here within our confines. And if you want to get that information, I suggest you think about next summer when you have some interns available. The interns next summer can do the cost study. Once you've got the cost study, you know you can only raise it. Is it 35%? Isn't that the number? It's 30 or 35% that you can add on to your costs for these services. It doesn't make a difference what Newport Beach or anyone else charges. What makes a difference is what it costs you.
Correct.
So consultants, forget it. Use the university interns. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Always makes me nervous.
If I may, just as to the 35%, I don't know where that comes from, but there's different types of fees and different laws attendant to fees. So you have development processing fees, right, which are somebody comes in for a building permit. The general rule there is you charge the cost of providing the service, right? So what you do, an allocation of Michelle's time, Bill's time, Jared's time, whatever, you come to a number, that's what the cost is to the city, that's what you charge. Then there's development impact fees, like drainage fees, transportation fees. Some cities, you go through a whole audit process to figure out how much the impact of that development is on that specific public good, and that's how much you charge. Then you have constitutional fees for the cost of providing service, like water or landscape lighting districts some cities have. There you're bound by constitutional provisions where you don't look at the cost of providing the service, but the benefit the person gets from the other side, and you figure out what that monetary value is, and you assess the fee on that. So depending on the type of fee it is, there's different legal standards, even though at end, they all generally get to the same place, either looking at the cost or the impact of the development, and that's what you can legally charge. So, for what it's worth.
Thank you, Todd. Real quick before I have you speak, just so everyone knows, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett and myself sat in Jared's office over this item for a good while, actually pounding on Jared about, you got to be kidding me, interns, all these same things we've all heard. We've been down the road. Keep in mind, there is no cost and no obligation for us to go ask some consultants what they feel about this and get some ideas. We're not saying we're signing any checks away of the city to do this. We already went down this path. We've already looked at these options. We're just going to go out and stick our foot in the water. There's no obligation. We don't have to do it. When we get the information back, we'll look at the data, and then we'll make a decision. So we're not making a decision to spend money. We're making a decision just to open the process up and start looking at it. That's it.
But we wouldn't put an RFP out lightly. Then we would lose our reputation. People would quit, bidding on things if we just
those questions.
kept sticking
Jared,
our toe in.
would you like to comment on that, or?
I don't think we
asked
lose our
that very
business
question.
on that one. And it has been thought of having an intern go out there and compile the data. That's easy. I can do it in 15 minutes, maybe an hour. It's what you do with that data that I cannot do, and I don't have the financial expertise to do. Okay. And I guarantee you an intern doesn't have financial expertise to do it. Sure, you can say Orange charges $1,200, Beverly Hills charges $13,000. Let's split it down the middle, and that's what we'll charge. It isn't. Where if we get a consultant to come in here and maybe spend $5,000 to $10,000, who knows what that price is going to come back in a matter of a couple weeks to a month to prepare. By the time you add up all my staff time doing this, Ryan's and Michelle's looking at these numbers, I guarantee you we'd pay well more than that in just salaries alone. Here we're getting something that's defensible, a full cost allocation plan that we can maintain in the future. This will just give us a basis. We're not even raising fees
We'll
at this
learn a
point.
lot through this.
We'll learn quite a bit.
And then we make our decisions after we have the data. Greg, you have something?
Well, that just means we're looking at trade-offs again as usual. We have a fixed budget here pretty much in Villa Park, so it's how we allocate the time here. And I tend to agree with Deborah and Rich Freshy that I think the resources exist here now to what we need to do. In other words, if there's a time amount that you have some records of what you have already, I think we can apply that pretty closely right now without having to go out and taking your time up with an outside RFP process. So, thank you.
Brown.
James Brown, 18552 Minnesota Circle. Not to impress you, but I managed several corporations before I retired. And you can make cost anything you want. These guys are on salary. They're here, whether they do nothing, they're still paid. There's no cost for them doing what they do. If I come down for a water heater thing, they fill out, we go through it. They're still being paid whether I'm in there or not. So there's no cost here in that regard. You can make that cost any dadgum way you want it. And so I'm saying, I agree, we don't need a consultant. If we want to raise the fee as a city, I think we can vote on that and raise those fees. But, whether you charge $10 for a water heater or $5,000, that cost is whatever you want to make it. Now, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying if Jared was involved in it and you say, well, he spent 4 hours on this, whether he spent it on that or anything else, his cost is still fixed to this city. It's a fixed cost. It's not something in addition. And I agree with Deborah Paul. We do not need a consultant to do that. Hell, I'll come in and do it for nothing. But I'm saying you do not need someone to come in here and tell you raise your fees, because that's what he's going to do.
Ask Pete, be careful.
Huh?
Ask Pete Moriarty,
That's
be careful.
That's on the recorder, right?
I'll have a desk for you tomorrow.
Well, all I'm just saying is that cost is fixed. I mean, these guys are paid 365 days a year if they work that much.
Your point is well taken. I think all of us agree with that, by the way. I'm not willing to spend 10 grand on it. I can tell you that right now, but I don't have the information. I think what Jared's a little afraid of is he's never gone down this path before, and here's the part that he has questions on. When we meet with these folks and do the RFP, we're not obligated to go with anything. We're going to get information. One of the things we need information on is, as Jared said, it's very simple to go on the web and just look at all these other cities, what they charge, but it's not Villa Park-ized, right? Okay, so here comes the hard part. You have all these different line items, and there is hundreds and hundreds of line items. Granted, the majority of them might be 50 line items that we use in our city mostly. Building permits, CUP, water heater permits, general things. The question is, what is our real cost? Should they determine our real cost? You know, what's the labor rate? What's this? How much gas did the guy use? How much wear and tear on the truck? So we need to find out the rules, the laws, because we're not allowed to make a profit on this.
Right.
So what we're doing is doing research to find out how to do this. And when we do get bids back and we all look at them, we don't want to spend money either, believe me. I mean, we brought up the identical things I'm hearing.
Well, I put a flagpole in my front yard 2 years ago. I think I brought it up in one of the meetings. I came down here to check on it. There's a limit of 20 feet tall, had to be 35 feet back from the curb, and I had to pay $79, I think, for a fee to put up a flagpole.
Sounds like you got hosed.
No, well, I would say if you bring a consultant in, he wants that to be $900. So I'm saying,
I don't know about
who
that.
needs a consultant? You're not losing money on these guys. These guys are doing their job.
Your point's well taken.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Rick,
Jim,
go ahead.
Jim, one of the concerns, I got to tell you, I feel like I'm in deja vu here because this is the same thing that we went through with Jared during round one.
We drilled him on all this.
Brad and I saw it here, and it was like a war in
I
Jared's
don't
office.
see any bruises. I don't see any bruises.
He had some that day. He had some that day, and he ultimately got to the point where he convinced us that it wouldn't hurt to see what the numbers would be. Hopefully, they'd be low, and also at least persuaded us to some extent that the current resources available in that office weren't adequate to get this done, and even if we drew in Michelle, et cetera, to get it done, that the cost we'd pay because she is on a progressive hourly, she's not on a fixed fee, that by the time we did that, we might spend as much or more. They didn't know what they were doing as well. It wouldn't be as credible, and he questioned that they had the time to get it done. That was the problem, and when we got to that point, we decided, well, let's see what it would cost and go from there, and that's how this ended up here. We already had that war. So Brad and I have been sitting here going, oh, my God, here it is again. And now they're where we were, and before we finally caved and said, all right, let's look at the number.
Yeah. And the reason we caved, by the way, the only reason we caved is we're not obligated to do anything when we get the data back.
Right.
If we were obligated, we wouldn't have done it.
No, because the RFP is just...
Because you're going to pay 10 grand to get that done.
Well, I want to see it. I don't know that.
We don't know what the number is.
We're guessing. I mean,
well, even if it's $1,000, that's a loss right off the bat.
Wow.
And you probably don't. How many water heaters do you do a year? 10, 20?
It doesn't hurt to stick your feet in the water. You don't have to jump in, right?
Well, I agree. Beat him up some more.
Okay.
All right. So
I understand you guys have already thought this out, and I hear all these sides, and I thought about that side, and I already heard Jared as well. I still have issues. One of the big issues I have is all along the way when we're looking at this thing, what we're going to have this consultant do is figure out whether or not we're charging enough. That's really what it boils down to. But I don't see anything in here in all these numbers 1 through 8 about looking at efficiencies. There's never, when government looks at things, it never looks at how can it be more efficient and do it more cost effectively. It's almost always, how can we charge more?
See,
are we sure we're getting enough money?
If we're overcharging, they'll tell us that as well.
You really think they're going to tell
us
that?
Just like that flagpole,
Seriously.
$79?
That seems pretty raw.
Right? I mean, if they say it should be $50, it's $50.
That's
what
actually,
the study does.
Mayor, if I may, yeah, I've seen that happen a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen fees go down.
You've actually seen them go down?
Oh, heck yeah.
No, that's not.
Well, I would be
mean,
shocked
more go
about
up than go down, but I've seen fees go down.
Right.
All right.
No, well, no, we don't. No, if you're, hey, you don't talk from the audience like that. Right.
Uh-oh. Fresh speaker.
Edison is going to weigh in. Edison's going to weigh in on
Going
this.
to pick up our
The only
study
reason
costs
I'm
for
going
us.
to speak, Pat Buttress, I'm with Southern California Edison. The only reason is because I had an opportunity. There's a microphone here.
Yes. It's there.
I don't need.
They need to boost it up in the back. Yeah, there you go.
The only reason I thought I could weigh in is that Ken Domer, who at one time was your city manager.
I remember him.
Yes, and he's up in Placentia now. And Placentia went through a very extensive study, and to let you know that I sat there and I did see where rates actually went down because of the study. And out of the majority of their rates, the majority went down because they didn't have as many staff people as they had originally had, which made sense because now they didn't have the overhead. They didn't have that many people. And but at any rate, I just bring it to your attention. You know, Jared could talk to Ken and just see, what kind of a study was it? Was it worthwhile? As a person who sat there as I was monitoring their council meeting, as I do this one, it was very eye-opening to me because I was like you, Deborah. I was rather skeptical that any rates would ever go down, and so I was amazed when I saw this report. And there were several that did go down. In fact, more went down than went up. So I just bring that to your attention.
Placentia is a very
Thank you,
different
Pat.
city than ours, for sure.
All right. I think we have beat this one up pretty good. I guess I would ask for a motion on this item.
So move.
Greg moves it. Do I have a second?
I second.
And Deanna seconds. All right. Can we have a roll call, please? Jared.
Yeah, just to confirm the motion is what stated in the staff report to authorize the city manager to issue the RFP.
Yes.
Councilmember Mills.
No.
Councilmember Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilmember Pauly.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Carries 3-2.
If I could
Yeah,
make,
go ahead.
I just want to share just briefly my thought on this. If this proposal comes back and it's costly, I'll just tell you that my first thought is going to be that as an alternative to this, that we should take a look at the primary fees that are involved, the big items that get the most attention, and have staff take a look at those and see if they can figure
That's
some
what they should
cost,
do right now.
some cost issues on those, and then we can just go from there. That's going to be where probably I'm going to be headed if this study comes up expensive.
Yeah, and I echo that. Same thing.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean.
Mayor, if I could.
For a bid.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, and I also think if it comes back high, since it has passed, that we look at around the community for some advice on this as well. I think we have a lot of talent in this town that we should take advantage of.
That's a great idea.
So.
Yep. And we got that on recording too, James. I'll play it back.
I think that's a binding contract under the law.
Is that right? Okay. All right. Mr. Attorney says it could be a binding contract. All right.
But it's got to be substantiated. Whatever we do has got to be substantiated.
agree.
Cost.
All right. We're done with that item. Next item. Item 13 is an item regarding the sale and use of safe and sane fireworks. This is an item that the council looked at a good little while ago. In fact, there is a member of the council, previous member of the council, Mr. Rich Fresky here. I know this is an item he felt very passionate about many years back. How many years back was that, Rich? Roughly.
2006.
Yeah, so good little while back. This is an item that Mayor Pro Tem Barnett and I were chatting about, and we did speak with Mr. Fresky about this as well. And after looking at this particular item, we came up with, one, homes are built safer nowadays. Two, we have quite a bit of people in the city that do it anyways, even though they're not allowed, and they kind of do it in hiding or in the backyard where it's not as safe. It would be better to be out in the street where it actually is more fireproof and safer, and encourage other neighbors to join in with them and do it safely with a bucket of water and a hose and an adult present. The other thing we looked at is there are now, I believe, 8 cities in Orange County that do allow fireworks. It seems to be a trend of coming back to the way it used to be. The other thing we looked at is our nonprofits in the city. This would be able to give them revenue and help with their causes, because if we had a few fireworks stands in our city, I'm sure other cities like maybe Anaheim and Orange, which do not allow fireworks, and you know that some of them do them anyways, they would come here and buy them instead of going to Santa Ana and buy them. Thus, our nonprofits get the revenue. So I think I've spoke enough about this. Mr. Barnett, would you like to say a few things?
You know, you hit on most all the concerns that I had. There was one more item in terms of safety. The way it is now, these fireworks are detonated all over Villa Park. I've seen it every year. They go off all over the place. Like you say, they go off in a backyard or someplace, you know, where maybe it's not as well, you know, not as open and as safe. I think if we get it out in the open a little bit, we can patrol it a little bit better. And I think that the proposal here ought to include reference to having some decent safety guidelines, some common sense safety guidelines, both in terms of purchasing and in terms of use. I think it should be a 1-year deal to test it and see how it goes. But I kind of think it makes sense for all those reasons. It happens anyway. Why turn a bunch of nice people into criminals, forcing them to hide in their backyard with their kids and do fireworks? Because you can hear them. They go off all over town. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents.
Mayor,
Yes,
what is the definition of safe and sane as pertaining to this?
Safe and sane would be fireworks that are purchased at a fireworks stand, and they are deemed safe and sane, I believe, by the fire marshal. California. Yep.
Okay, so that's all set.
Yeah.
It's basically stuff that doesn't leave the ground, and it has a restrained radius. But yeah, there's like 30 pages of regulations.
Does that mean bottle rockets are illegal?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, because they
Yeah,
fly
so
and
stop
land on roofs, of course. Definitely, yes.
Roman candles?
Any other council member comments before we have Rich speak?
My comment here is they are safe and sane, and all of us grew up with
Of
that,
course,
and
yeah.
we did. If we make them legal in our city, now we're going to have everybody from our visiting cities that neighbor us come over to their friend's home, and we're going to have a lot of people in our streets who are going to be very excited because they haven't had fireworks out in public in a long time. And I don't necessarily know if that's safe for us to do. It's not safe, I think, enough for our own residents, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to get the high school kids who are going to come over with all of their friends, and they're all now going to come to Villa Park, and they're going to have a party here because that's where I would go. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily sure that we want to undertake that type of responsibility with fireworks again.
Well, that brings up a good point. I'd kind of like Todd to touch on that. What are responsibilities or liabilities, I should say? What would they be if the scenario Deanna just painted happened?
None. So safe and sane fireworks are legal in the state, but there's a code provision that says cities can make them illegal within their city. So they're currently legally allowed. So in Adelanto, where I'm city attorney, we sell them, and it's really the primary fundraiser for all the nonprofits in the city. And we have like 10 booths. We have so many people who want to put up booths that we have to put a lottery together. Mm-hmm. And we pick names out to see and we grandfathered in some groups because we wanted them to win. And so they make a lot of money. Now, every year we get a letter from San Bernardino County Fire saying, don't do this, and from our surrounding cities, don't do it. And every year they ignore it, and they haven't had any problems. The only problem they really had, frankly, is trash, because people do them in the middle of the street and then not pick up after themselves. So that's been the only real ramification.
At least it's in the front of their house. I mean, you think they got right? They got to look at it.
It's true.
So, but as far as legal ramifications, I don't know what fire's going to say. I mean, I'm sure they're going to say don't do it because that's what they do. But from legal ramifications, I'm fine with it.
Jared, do you have a list of the cities that are allowing it now? Didn't we have?
It's in the staff
some,
report.
it's in there.
Right
Why don't you read that off?
Huntington Beach, Garden Grove, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, Westminster, Buena Park, Stanton, and I know Fullerton just
All the
approved
best
them
cities.
last November.
Yeah, Fullerton's the
vote
newest
on the ballot. Fullerton is 8th.
Good comparison.
Okay. Any other council person comments before we have Rich speak first, and then we'll have the fire chief come up after? Go ahead, Deborah.
I actually thought this was a pretty interesting proposal, and I actually wrote down, people are doing it anyway. We've turned our normally law-abiding citizens into criminals on the 4th of July and January 1st, some of them. I think, though, some of the issues that Deanna brought forward are the same that I was concerned with. When I looked at the list of cities that already allow safe and sane fireworks, Orange isn't among them, which means that they would all be right here. We see what happens in the boat parade, and we see what happens at Halloween Fest. Well, but they'll also probably be here. I think we need to be cautious about how we craft the ordinance, is what I'm saying. I think we need to be clear about referencing the definition, who can and who can't. Are we going to let 7-year-olds blow off fireworks in the city or not? Do we have an age limit? Do they have to have parental guidance under? No, not of course. I want to be sure it's not an of course. Those are the kinds of things I would like to be sure.
We're talking about the generalization of it. We're not talking about having all the little details written down right at the second.
I understand that.
Yes, all that would be
But
covered,
as we're
obviously.
discussing the potential of directing staff to craft an ordinance, obviously looking into what other cities have written, these are some of the issues that I think need to be addressed in our ordinance. What you're talking about here is where they can. I would also like to talk about areas that will be prohibited. I don't think we want it in Towne Centre. I'm sure we don't want it on the high school, because then for sure, you'll have the kids all over the place. So, do we have the authority to keep them from being on the school properties blowing these things off? Do they have to be in their own private residences and adjacent to it? I mean, these are questions that should be answered when you're crafting the ordinance.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, you can specify certain locations. As far as the number of stands you allow, you can allow one to whatever. That's going to be something you're going to have to figure out because of traffic concerns, frankly, of people going to stands. It's more those logistical types of things. As far as, ages, yeah, it's usually under 18. You can't be part of the selling process unless you're 18 years of age. Under state law, you can only sell them between like June 25th at midnight to July 5th at noon or July 6th at noon. So a lot of that's already in the state law.
Okay.
Whereas before, we said, okay, we're not going to allow it. A lot of those types of regulations are already there, and we'd piggyback off of those. So.
Okay.
Deborah, if I can add to what you said,
Yes.
though, one of the other issues will be you will immediately have to have a lottery, because I can tell you that you will have a line
I'm
from
sure.
every booster
You
club.
Right, and you can-
immediately, so that it just brings up another level.
Yeah.
That
You have to think it. We want to think it fully through before we go doing it. That's the main thing.
And you'd set parameters so it would just be Villa Park, organizations that have at least 60% Villa Park membership or something like that to make it Villa Park groups get the benefit, like Rotary or whoever would want to do it. But
Okay,
it's
let's
a pain
hear
working
from
on those booths.
Mr. Rich.
I've done extensive survey on this and extensive research, and I think most everything that I could tell you has been brought up already. But let me tell you a couple points here. The first thing is that when the boat parade and the Halloween Fest and the picnic were established, part of the reason was so that we could support our nonprofits. And that's a significant advantage of this. The other cities can tell you how much money their nonprofits are generating. And if I recall, they're generating like $15,000, $18,000, $20,000, and $30,000 a year in some of these cities. I dare say the biggest problem that you'll have is deciding who's going to sell them. And you have to work out a lottery system. But who can buy them, when you can sell them, that's all handled by the fire code. And there are specific definitions of safe and sane. The fire code covers all that. The fireworks company will provide you all the information you need. And they'll give you data on what other cities make, how they sell them, and who they use. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Rich. Chief, would you like to come up and make some comments?
Absolutely. Honorable Mayor and Council, first of all, I would like to say that the fire department does not support this for a number of reasons. We would ask that you review the 2007 grand jury report on this very subject before you make a final decision, obviously. It's very extensive. It covers it rather well. It was an independent agency that didn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, when they did it, and they did a good job. From our perspective, there's a couple three things that why we think safe and sane are not a good idea in Orange County. One of the things that we found, I was the fire marshal in San Clemente before being a part of the Orange County Fire Authority 18 years ago. I was the fire marshal that outlawed them in the city of San Clemente. I was a bad person on the street for a long time. A lot of people hated me because of that. But I can tell you that it changed things. It changed how San Clemente was. If you, prior to banning safe and sane fireworks in San Clemente, if you'd have gone to the Pier Bowl on the 4th of July, you'd have thought you were in a war movie. You'd have thought you were in a war zone. The first year we banned them, most of the council people told me, hey, we took our 4th of July back. It was more family friendly. It was a much better place to be. Why? Because the illegal stuff can't hide in the safe and sane. And that's really what we find, is the safe and sane fireworks provide a cover, if you will, for those that want to do the bottle rockets and the mortars and all that kind of stuff. When everything's illegal, these people have no place to hide. It's very obvious when they're doing that. So having done this for a number of years, I can tell you from personal experience that the whole nature of the 4th of July experience in the city of San Clemente improved dramatically when we outlawed safe and sane. You can talk to a number of fire professionals that would also tell you that there is no doubt that when the safe and sane come back, that there's a certain component of illegal that's going to increase. We don't deny that most of the fires and most of the issues are with the illegal stuff. They're the ones that are propelled. They're the ones that end up in the air, end up in the palm trees. But we can also I can also tell you from firsthand experience that you can take a safe and sane firework and make it an unsafe firework with just a few modifications, and any kid worth his salt tell you how to make a piccolo pico boom at the end, or how to take a ground bloomer with a slingshot and make it look really cool as it goes across the road. It doesn't take much. They're designed to be in a very specific parameter. People don't tend to stay within that parameter that makes them safe and sane. And the minute they're used outside of their parameter, they're no longer safe and sane. So I can tell you that the fire department, well, we're not standing here in opposition. We certainly would not support this move, and we see this as going backwards. So, Pete, Jody, you want to add to that?
Pete Bonanno, I'm a deputy fire marshal with the Orange County Fire Authority. Real quick, just to add what Chief Bignell said, the fire service in general, not just the fire authority, we're disturbed by the trend. We fought long and hard to ban the use of safe and sane, and because of that, there's an incident curve of fires that have been decreasing throughout the state. Now we see that trend reversing because we drove the stats down so much that we did a good job. So it's disturbing to us to see all of our hard work in the past. We promote the public displays, things of that nature, but we're not in support of safe and sane. Chief Bignell talked about the grand jury's report. It's available online. It's titled "The Anatomy of Sale of Safe and Sane Fireworks in Orange County." It's an eye-opener on how much really the community groups are taking at the after they pay all their fees and their costs back, how much money they're really making. They detail that in the report. And on top of that is the unanticipated costs that a city bears from the use of safe and sane. And in their report, they talk about, this was in 2007, so Buena Park, the additional cost to the city that's not captured in the permit fees that you'll be getting was $30,000. Costa Mesa, additional cost of $18,000. Garden Grove, it cost them $100,000 to clean up the streets. These are costs of cleaning up the streets, the overtime for their police and fire departments, all those costs that a city will have to absorb. Santa Ana was $34,000 and Stanton was $5,000. But and when you go through that report, they outline really well on where those costs come from. So, thank you.
Thank you.
James Brown. I'm sorry to be talking so much, but I would like to see the city council make a definitely safety move to request the fire department, be it nationally or what. Safe and sane has probably caused more injuries to little kids than what we really think. I've seen burns over my years. I've seen eyes poked out by throwing sparklers and various other things. So I think a study should be provided to the city to say there's 10,000 nationwide burns from Safe and Sane, because Safe and Sane is only Safe and Sane because the people that produce those have got those rules set to cause this Safe and Sane. And I've seen streets that are really messy, but the main thing is the safety to kids, because little kids, even these pop things that come up like a worm and the smoke, I've seen kids cough and fall over from breathing. I wouldn't let many of my grandchildren do it, because I don't think they're safe and sane. And I'd like to see a study, and I think you should request that before you make a move on that personally. Too many little kids get hurt.
Thank you. Any other council member comments on this?
I mean, I could respond briefly to a couple of those,
go ahead,
I
Rick.
guess. I think everybody, the vast majority of people that want the fireworks are going to get them anywhere. They're going to run to Sane, they're going to pick them up. I see them all over the backyards. I stand by my thought. I'd rather see them out there patrolled and regulated than I would stuffing them in the backyard, shooting them out of there, whether they bought them in St. Anne or whether they get them here for the benefit of our nonprofits. They can still slingshot them. I almost wish that the chief hadn't brought that up, because I was thinking, oh, don't say that, it's on TV, because my kids have been out there and they've never thought of that. So.
Oh, great, Chief! Look what you've done.
So I hope nobody's watching, but anyway, I think it's there anyway. I'd like to see it regulated, controlled, and I'd also like to put a 1 year on this. I'd like to just sunset this thing in 1 year, take a look at it, and then revisit it the following year as to whether we wanted to carry it. That was my thought. You know, there've been a lot of issues raised. I gave this a lot of thought before I went on to it. I thought through all of these issues extensively. You and I had discussion on it. We came up with the same issues. We want it regulated, we want it controlled. We thought about the good and the bad, and there clearly are good and bad. I think we felt like the good may more than offset the bad, and the big cap, do it for a year and check it out and see how it goes, and and revisit it. That was I guess that was our thoughts, really. So, and I think it's proposed that way. So I stand by it for the time being. More and more cities are doing it. This is nothing stray that we're doing. The trend is more that way, and I think before it goes any further, I'd like to see our nonprofits pick up some of this. A lot of this, probably the majority of these fireworks, we have such a small town, are going to be purchased by residents of other cities. Instead of going, instead of Brea or Yorba Linda going to Santa Ana, now they're going to go to Villa Park. So it's going to happen either way. That's not going to be part of our deal. We're not going to contribute to it. But at least our charities will make some revenue off of it. They'll still be purchased, and I don't see any great harm in a 1 year trial. I sometimes think that we just regulated everything to death in this country. So if it turns out it's more trouble than it's worth, I think we just don't reenact it.
I definitely like the 1 year to try it, and I definitely, as the chief mentioned, or someone had mentioned about kids getting hurt and all that. Obviously, I think Mr. Brown mentioned that maybe. Of course, if the kids are out there doing this by themselves, that's a problem. We all know that. This has to be under parental supervision 100%. And if the kids are out there doing fireworks just because the parents purchased them and hid them in the house somewhere, the parents have a problem. They shouldn't allow their children to get near the fireworks and go play with them. I don't let my kids play with matches at home. It's the same difference. You don't let your kids go play with fireworks at home. I certainly had many, many great memories as a kid out in the street with a bucket of water, with my parents supervising the whole thing, and then you had good camaraderie with your neighbors. It was a great time. It's definitely safer to do it out on the open street than it is in your backyard. I can attest, being a reserve fireman in this city for many, many years, that there are plenty of people in the city that do it anyways. We busted many of them. So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Barnett on this. I'd like to see us try it for a year. Those are my thoughts. I'd like to see our nonprofits make some of that money.
I have just
Mayor?
one more brief comment, if I could. It kind of responds to Deborah's concerns, because I've already been where she is on this. I'd like to see some guidelines, and I don't want to see 18-year-olds out overseeing kids lighting this stuff. I want to see somebody 25, 30 years old or older. So I want to.
You're going to redefine. You can't redefine adult. You know you
I
can
think
you?
you can.
Can you say they have to be over 25? Can you do that?
Can we put an age?
That's crazy.
Can we enhance the age restriction?
I think it's parental is the key
state
issue
says
here.
Parental or parents
I've
or
been-
guardian.
I've never seen it go to 25. Theoretically, maybe you could. That doesn't mean it can't be done because I haven't seen it. But I'd have to. I mean, I don't know the state fireworks law inside and out. I'd have to look at that.
Exactly.
Greg,
go ahead. Come on up, sir.
To speak.
All right, we'll let you speak first.
Is this John?
That's a good question. Why are you?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and staff. My name is John Kelly. I'm Vice President with TNT Fireworks. Just here this evening with my wife, observing the debate and seeing what takes place going forward. Should the council decide this evening to proceed, just wanted to put a name with a face in terms of a resource. We do business in 46 states throughout the U.S. We do business with 285 communities throughout California. I will tell you that in California, no two ordinances are alike. They're like snowflakes. And as the discussion was here earlier, you have to really kind of tailor it to what it is you want to do in Villa Park. I would encourage a couple things in conclusion here. In your debate going forward in staff time with the ordinance, is to refer to a bill that was actually passed after the grand jury came out, Senate Bill 839. This bill puts into place some of the concerns I've heard from the dais here this evening with respect to laws in effect for the proper use of our product as well as punishment for the use of illegal product. It spells out a table in terms of administrative fines, which many cities throughout the state have taken advantage of in terms of the fight against what is my wicked twin brother, which is illegal fireworks. So as you're very blessed to have an attorney who's quite versed, I must say. I'm responsible for 63 cities in Southern California over a 6-county area, and he's pretty sharp on the fireworks laws, so you've got some good counsel there. So in conclusion, I'm at 555 North Gilbert. Our Western regional offices are based here in Fullerton, here in Orange County. And again, pending on the outcome of the discussion this evening, we would like to make ourselves available. I'll leave a card with the city clerk or manager in terms of if you had any questions with respect to ideas that other cities have tried and that have worked and tried and not worked. My 23 years of experience within this industry, I hope, would be of help to the city of Villa Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give us an idea of how much money some of the nonprofits make.
The question is, how much will organizations make? I can quote you some averages that are, I'm asked that all the time, and in your debate you have to be very, very careful, and you're absolutely right. You'll have a line around the block of people who are interested in doing this, and many of those individuals have been at functions, and you know, if I heard it best at a discussion last night that when I was growing up and you played in sports, the bats and balls were included. Now you got to go out and buy your own. So there are school organizations, there are church organizations, there are philanthropic organizations who are all struggling today in the nonprofit environment and all looking for fundraising activities. We don't argue that there are other forms of fundraising. We just feel that we have one of the best programs. It's a consignment basis. You're not out any money up front. You don't pay until you return the product that you don't use or sell, and that's credited against your account, and then and only then do we get you a bill. Typically, organizations in Orange County, it all depends on location, it all depends on population, but probably you would generate retail sales anywhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. You do have a smaller population than many of the cities that you outlined earlier. I live in Huntington Beach. We're in the midst of a 2-year pilot program there. I don't think you have to worry about anyone coming to Villa Park, because I think they all go to the pier at Huntington Beach. At least that's what I saw last year. People do come from outside communities on occasion to celebrate with their friends in jurisdictions that are, but it's typically a family situation. So I would guess you just need to be very careful going forward in the numbers of permits. You're going to sell X amount of dollars in Villa Park, pure and simple. And it's just how many ways do you want to slice the pie? Do you want to slice it one way? Do you want to slice it 2 ways, 4 ways, 6 ways? If you do this, I would assume you want it to be successful. And as such, you know, if you try to slice it too many ways, you're going to have some people that aren't going to be happy. Huntington Beach, a city of 200,000 people, issued 10 permits, so you can do the ratios there. Barstow, which opened last year up in San Bernardino County, the city council voted 5-0 to pass the ordinance. The next day, the mayor's phone just kept ringing, and sure, I'll get you a permit, sure, I'll get you a permit, sure, I'll get you a permit, sure, I'll get you a permit. At 5 o'clock, how many permits did I issue? Well, 17, sir. This is a city with a population of 50,000, and they are an island. I mean, everybody knows Barstow is where you stop to get gas or water the horses on the way to Vegas. So clearly, in that situation, they ended up issuing 12 permits and asked many of the groups to kind of double up. And in the newspapers on July 5th, you had 3 or 4 that were very happy. You had 3 that said, well, maybe if there were less permits next year, I'd do it again. And you had the balance who were very, very unhappy for the effort. So please, I implore you to be cautious as you go forward in this process, particularly if you are serious about a 1-year pilot. I would think that you want to do it with the intent that it would work.
Of course.
So there is certainly the family benefit and enjoyment, but there is the nonprofit fundraising arm that you have to be mindful of. So.
Mr. Kelly?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deanna.
I have a question. When it came to, and when you see who they give the permits to, and you do have a lottery system, do they have to, in your experience, do they have to open it up to every nonprofit? Have you seen cities only open it up to nonprofits that are 70% Villa Park or organized?
One of the tasks that your staff and yourselves will ultimately have are the qualifications to obtain a permit. And again, you know, without taking up too much of your time, the hour is late. I can be of service to staff to share with you. Typically, you know, you want to know that there are organizations that are based in your community that have been for a long time that are going to benefit that community.
Well, I think that's one of the important issues. If we
domiciled
offer it, and Santa Ana comes in with their booster club, or Laguna Niguel comes in.
Which is why you have to have an ordinance that protects against that. So domiciled in the city for a minimum of 1 year, membership percentage requirements within the city, financial disclosure requirements post 4th of July, so that you understand exactly how much money is being made and where it's going to go.
Thank you.
So it's just one of the many things that you can do.
John, we've seen a trend in Orange County of cities starting to add this back, which I'm sure you're not too disappointed about. However, you mentioned Huntington Beach had a 2-year pilot, and I'm sure maybe some other cities have had pilots. Have you seen any cities that have jumped in and did it a year and said, oh, wow, we're back out again? Or can you, I mean, you may have a tainted view, but I just want to ask you that.
Since 1992 in Southern California, in the state of California, over 32 cities have reopened by council action. Now, also since 1992 in Southern California, you've had 24 cities who allow the sale and use of fireworks, who have said, on one side I have individuals who are opposed to this for a variety of reasons, and on this side I have those who are in support for a variety of reasons. And so perhaps we should put this issue out to a vote of the people. And all 24 times in Southern California, those have come back in support of keeping the fireworks. So,
wow. And the public voted on the full thing, the ballots. Wow.
Exactly.
Which, of course, costs the city money to put it out to the ballots.
Yes,
obviously.
It does. Yeah, it does. So to answer your question, it seems that, you know, I think it's kind of been cyclical. I think you know, there was a change in ownership in the industry in the late 1980s, and in the early 90s. There was, I think, some repercussions of the previous ownership. But I think there's been quite a growth in the and stability in the industry ever since, including in 1999, the state legislature, which allowed for one-time use for the millennium of safe and sane product between December 26th and New Year's Eve. So, there have been some things that have been ongoing. There was some discussion earlier about modification of Piccolo Pete's. In 2008, the construction of those Pete's were modified. I was at the test at Santa Ana Fire Department that year, where they dumped 6 Piccolo Pete's into the liter bottle. I know I'm on TV, but and they did not have the result, I think, that they had seen in previous years, where the pyrotechnic composition was much greater. The construction of the tube was much different. So, the industry has been doing a lot in terms of, we don't want anybody waking up on the 5th of July hurt either.
No, of course not.
No one does, and the fire department and I are in agreement of that. How to get to that end, perhaps we disagree, but the reality is my industry is under a pretty severe microscope in the state of California. California enjoys the most strict consumer fireworks regulations in the country. As was mentioned earlier, June 28th to July 6th, a law that's been on the books since the 50s, because when we were growing up, Mom and Dad shopped on Saturday after payday. So it was crafted so there would always be a weekend around the 4th of July, which falls on a Thursday this year as you're looking at dates of sale and use. So you have to be mindful of city inspections and when they can take place to kind of time it all. So there's a bit to look into, and again, we're very happy to be a resource if you so desire. Thank you.
I have one question, please,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Kelly.
Deborah.
How did you come to be here tonight? Were you invited here by someone?
I'm the government relations guy for TNT Fireworks. I'm one guy in 63 cities, so do the math, times 5 council members, public safety staff. My secretary and I, we have a system on our computer that Googles all agendas. We certainly pay attention to opportunities in cities where we're already selling, which I call maintenance, and then cities like this evening, which are possibility of expanding our markets. So I found it out through public record.
So your Google alert told you we were going to be talking about it tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one more question. Well, just a statement for the council is that I think their staff can do a lot of work with keeping the cleanup and the abatement of all the target trash. I'm sure they've already got that in mind and what they were going to do. But so I think this is something we should go ahead and take action on.
Thank you, Greg. All right. Well, it sounds like we've drilled down on this. So I guess we will call for the vote. Jared, if this passes, what are your plans as far as all the stipulations on it? How do we plan to go forward? Because as it's been mentioned up here, there's many facets of this. So if we pass it tonight, does that just pass the baton to yourself? And where do we stand on getting back our input, or at least looking over what you've done?
Well, I reckon I'd put together an ordinance, put it on the next agenda. You tell me what you like. Reckon's a word. Tell me what you like. Take out things you don't like, and that's how we do it.
Okay.
That's how we have to do it in the public settings.
So we would get a look next month at all the recommendations. We can scrub it and go from there.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I will say from experience, the city council meeting where you have the people for the lottery is one of the most contentious council meetings in Adelanto. It's comical, actually. And as far as the amount of money people get, some groups don't staff it right, or it's like real estate, location. If you have a booth that nobody knows where it's at, they get maybe a couple $1,000, and it's not worth their effort. But some groups get $50,000-$60,000. So it's a huge range as to how much. And Jared and I were just thinking, where even in the city
that was my next
could
question.
someone get? I mean, Towne Centre theoretically, but you have to get a lease with whoever owns the parking lot. So
where are we have we thought that through? Where would we?
Well, that would be the next step. That would be the next step.
But what are you thinking? You must have been thinking something about where these were going to be.
You can certainly allow it in the town center, which is just a natural option, but it would be private property, so you'd have to get the property owner's permission. And then, as Mr. Kelly mentioned, you know, how many slices of the pie are you going to divvy up?
Rich, your front yard, maybe?
Yeah.
I think that it's kind of like campaign signs, you know? You ask them, can I put a sign up? They say yes or no.
Could be, but now you're talking about in a residential district.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about putting it in
I
residential.
think tonight we would just all be.
I'm kidding.
Oh, my God.
Tonight we'd all be voting on the concept of, yeah, let's move forward, invest a little staff time in this. Then when it comes back to us next month, we'll have a lot more data of where would we put them, what would be the rules, what, you know, this type of thing. I know Mr. Howard, the principal at Villa Park High, is very interested that he'd like to have one on his facility. And my question to him was, would OUSD allow that? And his answer back is, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. You know, so I think it's, as you mentioned, Todd, it would be all of them are going to want it. And that's another challenge we would have of how we divvy that up. How's it going to be fair? Of course, it has to be Villa Park nonprofits. It would not be Orange's nonprofits, or it would be for our city, you know. Anyways, tonight's more the concept of, yeah, let's go down the path and take a look at all the rules and regulations we put together, and we view that next month.
Okay.
So I would make a motion.
Go
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. And I'll also tell Todd that if we can, I would love to see something in the ordinance that requires somebody 25 or older to be present at the activity.
Mike,
Not necessarily have to be doing everything, but, you know, I'd like to see somebody with a few years under them in the zone.
okay. I'm just going to throw this out here. You're talking about only adults, and then you're going to put the fireworks stand on the high school property. That makes all the sense in the world. Okay, but I just want to. I hear where you're going. I just want to caution against us rushing in any fashion to try to get this through for this July. If we're going to do it right, we might need to step back a little bit. That's one thing. Number two, I'd request that you get your hands on the 2007 grand jury study. I want a copy of it. And I'd also want a complete copy of SB 839, along with the entire legislative history on that, please. Just pull the whole thing. I want to see the whole thing.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
If we were going to do that, we probably ought to just put it in the agenda books for next.
Oh, yeah, no, you'll get all
for
the
next
info.
session. I don't need the whole history if it's this thick.
I want
but
to. Well, the whole history
probably
shouldn't
won't
look
be.
like that. It should be one.
short.
It should be line items.
exactly.
But I want to
Sure.
be able to see that because it tells you certain things.
Just so I know what to do, anybody else have any comments or thoughts of stuff they'd like to see?
Just the cleanup part. I think that's a big deal.
So the
Because I
cleanup-
think Villa Park's a little different than a lot of these other cities, is that we have all single residential properties here. And I think that everyone's neighbors would like to see it cleaned up immediately upon cessation of the festivities.
Yeah, agreed. And I think our city's pretty good about that. I don't think it'd be like other cities, but
I have another question. I'm
that's
sorry.
why it's a trial also.
It's like a two-part ordinance almost. The being allowed to use safe and sane fireworks at your residence, and then you'd have a second part of an ordinance, or another ordinance entirely that talks about the sale of that and how we're going to affect that. Are they two, or are they the same thing?
It's one ordinance.
Okay.
It's dealing with fireworks and within the parameters of state law, certain things you can do, certain things you can't do. I'm unfortunately not as expert as was alleged, so I have to figure that out.
Okay.
And that's what I will do. So, I mean, to the extent I can.
Okay. All right.
Deanna, was
Since
there
we
anything?
have, since we have wish lists going on here, I would just like to make sure that it is legal to only have the lottery be with Villa Park associations. Because what we're going to have is we're going to have Villa Park Little League and we're going to have Sunrise Little League, which a lot of our students are involved with, and both of them are going to want a booth. And I want to make sure that we don't do something illegal saying we can't have you in our lottery, and you're not going to be in that to be able to sell the goods here.
Yes, it's legal. B, if it isn't legal, I mean, everybody does it this way, so everybody throughout the state would have a problem. And I'm not aware of any challenges to that, but once again, I may be wrong. And see, sunrise is generally a pain. So,
Literally.
My children don't play Little League, so I don't have an opinion on either of them. But
I say that.
other than being in the city. Of
I say
Villa Park.
that because one of my partners is former president of Sunrise, so I hope he's watching. So that was a personal attack on him.
I'll let you do that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Jared, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Councilmember Mills.
Yes.
Councilmember Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilmember Pollock.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That was a spirited discussion.
And we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah,
'Cause when
there's
you bring the
more-
first
more to
ordinance
come.
back, it's going to be more
to
spirited.
come. Yeah.
It'll be full out there.
All right, item 14 is an item regarding committee assignments that Councilwoman Fasenelli added to the agenda. Deanna, please.
What I added, the reason I added this is at our last meeting, Councilwoman Polly publicly denied being on any of the committees, and she gave forth her reasons, and you put her on committees anyway. Since that time, I have attended all the committees that I'm on with her, not knowing whether or not I was chairing the committee, whether or not I had the appropriate information. I didn't get agendas. I walked into the water board meeting. I didn't have any information.
Yeah, it's tough for you.
And it was really tough for
I
me.
can see that.
That's all. But I showed up to all of them, and I did my due diligence, and I have absolutely no problem doing that at all. But I think maybe we should honor her request of not being on those committees. I think it would make it easier on me. It would make it easier on the staff, because I'm calling them. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Do I have the information? Where do I get the information from? It was also, I think, quite embarrassing to the city when I walked into the water board. They didn't know I was coming. They weren't prepared for me, and they had to kind of scramble to get me their agenda book. I met with the Transportation Authority. The same thing happened also.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not to deny Councilwoman Polly being on it, because if she wants it, she's been assigned to it. It's just that she requested that she didn't want to be on it.
Yeah.
And if that is still the same, that maybe you can reassign
Yeah.
that I'm the chair of those committees.
Yeah, I see your point. Well taken. And I'm sorry for that, because being new and wow, that would be tough. So I apologize for that. Deborah, we kind of broached this a little bit in our planning meeting the other day. You certainly had a lot of comments about a particular area, but yet you kind of alluded that you didn't feel good that day, whatever, so maybe you want to talk a little more, but certainly you have a lot of comments and thoughts about these things on certain committees, if you will, or certain areas that we work on. And if you want to be able to have all those comments and all that, then it'd sure be nice if you were on that committee. So I guess I would ask you again to maybe restate your intentions. Mm-hmm. Certainly we all change our minds sometimes, and on other times we don't change our minds. We say, that's it. So I understand that, and I respect either of them. Mm-hmm. So I think at this point, if you say, well, okay, fine, I'm going to step up and serve on these committees, I do want to give my input, then I think that's wonderful, and we move on and say, that'd be great, we need the help. On the other hand, if you say, no, I'm sticking to my guns and that's the deal, then I agree with Deanna that we should just probably move forward and make that change. So I think now is the time to kind of discuss that.
Okay. The first thing I want to say is I'm sorry that you had an uncomfortable first start. That should have been staff normally would let all of the appropriate agencies know of committee assignments, and sometimes that first month or so, it's a little bit rocky, So that had nothing to do with whether I was there or not. That just had to do with their meeting just happened to be like lickety-split right away. So I think that had to do with, that. But I've already let them know that they don't need to deliver agendas to me anymore. That was something that had never happened prior. It was something I requested once I got on that committee so that we had a chance to really look at it. I said everything I intend to say about this on December 18th. I'm refusing to take any committee assignments. It doesn't preclude me from making my input on every appropriate area that this council oversees. I suggested at December 18th that you fill those committee assignments with someone else. This is the way I am. I say what I mean. I mean what I say. I thought long and hard before I said it.
Okay, that's certainly clear. So in that particular case, Deanna, I would say that we'll go ahead and modify the committees around, putting you as chair as those committees that you're on.
Okay.
And I guess we need to take a look if, getting a backup for yourself
Just
as
give
well.
me a
Yeah,
backup.
right.
We would need an
So
alternate.
I guess we're going to have to take a quick look at that. I don't have that data in front of me right now, but Jared, do you have that?
Yes, the Councilman Pauly is on 3 committees currently.
Okay.
It would be the Community Development and Public Safety, Public Utilities, and Towne Centre, which is an ad hoc committee. Under the Community Development Committee, she is the vice chair, and Councilmember Mills is the chair. So we need an alternate to be appointed to serve as with Councilmember Mills. Under the Public Utilities, Councilman Fasinelli would move to chair, and the alternate position would be vacant, so we need to fill that one as well. And then the Towne Centre Ad Hoc Committee, Councilman Fasinelli is currently the chair, and we would need a alternate for that.
Okay.
We could take them in order, which is what I would suggest. We could start with the CDC Committee, Community Development, selecting a alternate to fill with Councilmember Mills.
Okay. So on the CDC, this is a committee where it's not actually every month, correct, Jared? It's kind of as needed?
As needed.
Yeah, it's as needed. This is usually during the day because the public is invited to it. So I know sometimes that doesn't fit well with your schedule, Rick. And it's as needed, and basically this committee drills down on subjects in the committee. It could be an issue with some trees that are kind of on our city property / private property. It's causing an issue. So it's kind of an interesting committee. So I guess I would ask, well, it kind of gets down to Greg is the chair of the CDC, so we need a vice chair.
Correct.
Without having the list of everything in front of me to try to divvy this all out, we hate to see one person do everything. It's not easy. We all have lives we live as well. So we could either sit here and try to decide. It's basically it's us three,
Sure.
that would say, yeah, we'll jump in and Greg will chair it, and we'll be now on the CDC. It's not like some of the other committees where on the CDC both parties show up. Both parties have much input on the CDC. Whereas some of the other committees, the chair, if you will, goes, and the other one's like an alternate just in case they don't go. On the CDC, both go because you really need both council people there. Is that correct, Jared? Would you say?
That's correct. Essentially, it's not a committee if both members are not in attendance. And we
Correct.
like to hold these meetings, as you said, during the day, because it requires a lot of the professional staff. When Jennifer and Akram will be there, and they're hourly part-time, so we'd like to get them done, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when they're in the office.
I've done that committee for years. I'm familiar with it. If either of you don't want to step up, I will step up on it.
I don't have any problem stepping up with that.
Are you
I
sure?
mean, I have the lesser of the schedules, not
It's
working,
a
not
very
working full-time.
fun. It is a
during the
fun
day.
committee.
Yeah, I do
definitely.
understand that. I don't have a problem.
It's one of the ones I've enjoyed. It is fun. You'll like it.
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
So we're going to go ahead and put Deanna as the alternate. It's actually not the alternate. The committee, the second
The
committee
vice
that-
chair, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, the vice
Sure.
chair. That's great. Thank you, Deanna, for stepping up.
If we can take a vote on that one to add
Okay.
her. I would need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And then a roll call vote. Mayor Reese?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett?
Yes.
Councilman Fasinelli?
Yes.
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Councilman Pauly?
Abstain.
Next.
Counts as a yes. The abstention with the majority.
You want to elaborate or no?
No, it's just when you abstain on some, I'm sure Deborah, she already knows this, but if it's not for conflict purposes, it just is treated as a vote for the majority. Not that it matters in this case.
The next committee we have is the Public Utilities, in which Councilwoman Pauly was the chair. I know you'd mentioned that you want to move Councilwoman Fasinelli over to that chair position, which would leave the vice chair position open.
Okay. I think, Deborah, you've done that the last few years, right?
What?
The public utilities. I've never been on that particular one. Can you explain the responsibilities of it since you've been on it? So we know.
I mean, it's as much as you want to make out of it, I suppose. I thought it was important to go to every single one of the Serrano Water District Board meetings. I'd like to go out and tour water delivery in general. I think it's important to spend time with that. I kind of keep your fingers into what they're doing out at the lake, just because it's nice to keep up with it. Villa Park disposal, whenever there are issues there. Interface with Edison if there are issues there, like when we did the undergrounding, things like that. I mean, you know what the utilities are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
Did typically both council members go, Deborah, or typically just the
We
chair
usually
kinda?
we usually did.
Yeah.
we usually did. Now Bill didn't do all. He didn't stay for the entire Serrano Water District meeting. He liked the money stuff. Once we got by the money stuff, he was out of there. But I would stay through water quality issues and the other issues as well, political issues. I like to stick around with that. So, you know, quarterly, now that we've got, you know, our contract with VP Disposal, just not that many meetings with them. It's on an as-need basis. To me, from what I can see, Sherwood Water District is the primary responsibility.
The bigger one, yeah.
Yeah.
And did Jared, did you mention that Deanna's a chair on this one? Currently? Yeah, you
Currently,
are?
she's the vice chair. Councilman Polly is the chair.
Oh,
So, yeah,
right.
we
So,
need
okay. So Deanna would take over as chair. I would be happy to step up on this one unless anyone else has an interest. I guess, you know, Greg, you could have an interest, or I don't.
I'm very busy already.
You're good. All right, Rick, do you have any interest in that?
No, it sounds like a daytime. I just don't have any more daytime.
Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and step up for that.
Okay. If I can have a motion in a second, please.
I so move.
Second.
And then a roll call vote. Councilmember Mills.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polly.
Abstain.
And Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes. Okay, one more.
The last one is the Towne Centre Committee, which is an ad hoc committee. Currently, Councilwoman Fasenelli is the chair, and Councilwoman Polly is the vice chair. So we are looking for a vice chair for that one.
Okay. I have a question. Deborah, didn't you mention you went to this meeting last time?
I sat in on what is a community meeting that was being presented, where the overview of the study is being presented to the community. I attended those meetings. I'm going to tend to continue attending those meetings.
So you want to attend, but you don't want to be a council person there?
Well, at
I mean,
that,
this has been a passion of yours at Towne Centre. I'm really surprised you want to step down from
but Brad, you know the difference between the 4 community meetings that are being put on by staff, our professional staff. We're really not there in our capacity as a council person or as a committee member. We're there merely to observe, which is the only reason I was there. I like to hear directly from the citizens what they're saying instead of a sanitized version of what comes through staff. Occasionally, I think that's a good thing to do.
Okay. So, was Deborah the chair on this one?
No, she was the vice chair.
And who was the chair?
I am.
Okay.
We need a vice chair.
So we need a vice chair for this committee. This is ad hoc. It comes up as needed.
Right.
Okay. This usually is daytime as well. Pretty much, because you Towne Centre folks kind of want daytime, I imagine, too.
Pretty much. It sometimes bounces around, as we like to be lenient with many of the Towne Centre merchants. Some
Mhm.
are busy in the mornings, others have the evening free.
Yeah.
We're just looking to foster a relationship with Towne Centre.
Yeah.
Property owners, tenants, businesses, residents, so it has needed.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'll take it.
Really? Okay. It looks like Greg would step up on that.
If I
Thank you,
could
Greg.
have a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And then a roll call vote. Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polly.
Abstain.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for sucking up those positions. Definitely appreciate it. All right. Item 14. This item is regarding committee assignments. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong item. Item 15. My bad. It's time to hear individual council member informational items, starting with somebody. And,
I'll start.
okay, Deanna will start.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's been busy. So as far as, we can just start with the committees, what has occurred. I canceled the City School Advisory Committee because it was the first day back after 3 weeks of winter break. So that was canceled, so we're going to go ahead and reschedule that for next month. I did meet with Republic Service, which I kind of call it our annual meeting. It was just to get to know each other and get an idea how our trash is being picked up. Since that meeting, there's been a schedule of a tour of the facilities, and all council members were invited. I don't know who's going or who's not going, but I will be attending that tour. Then after that, I went to the Serrano Water Board meeting, which is lengthy. I learned a lot. They're looking forward to the town meeting. I would say that the majority of the discussion when it pertained to the residents is the water rates. They have some comparison going on between Irvine Ranch water rates and our water rates, and they did some comparison there. But that was a good meeting. They invited me over to the water treatment plant because they were going over that day, but I didn't have the time to go over. It was late already as is, so I'm going to go down and see that also. So they are preparing. They're going to show us a small video and provide us with their agenda for their town meeting prior to the town meeting, so just so we have an idea what they're going to do.
Okay.
On the 14th, we had a foundation meeting here, and they did reach a quorum after being there about a half an hour. There were enough people to come in. They have a lot of people on there. At that time, they issued the 2 grants. They did something a little different. They realized that their bylaws maybe were not as tight as they should be, and that their grant procedures were not as tight as they should be. So what they did is they actually issued a moratorium for 3 months not to issue any grants while they rewrite their grant requirements. So I thought that was very important to make sure that we're all aware that that's what they did. And they are going to offer brick sales starting February 1st again for out here. So they're going to offer it February 1st through the 28th, 30 days. After that, Mr. Mills and I attended the League of Cities up in Sacramento, which was the conference for newly elected council people and sitting council people and mayors. That was very informative. Sold out for the first time in 14 years. It was about 485 people in attendance. Met a lot of mayors, met a lot of city council people, asked a lot of questions to see what everyone else does. In addition, we had our representative, Don Wagner, was there. He saw the city of Villa Park out. They've got some redistricting that had just happened, so now he's our new assemblyman, for lack of a better word. Invited us to the assembly floor on Friday morning, where they introduced us and the city on the assembly floor on that morning, along with Laguna Hills and Laguna Woods. So Mr. Mills and I did that, and then we went back to our conference and came home. So,
You've been busy.
Yes.
Yeah, you did do a lot of things.
It's busy.
Wow-wee.
So it was good.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah. We'll bring back some pictures once the state releases them. They took some pictures of us. So.
Cool. Rick?
Well, I wish I could have gone to the League of Cities meeting. I feel kind of bad, but I couldn't go. My activities in the interim have been limited basically to in-city discussions, arguments, whatever you want to call them,
Arguments.
on the matters that we've already dealt with tonight. So I'm going to save time and pass it on down the road here.
Great. There was an Orange County sanitation meeting on the 18th, and I have no report for that. There really wasn't anything to report on of importance. There was no fire authority meetings during the month. Over the holidays, things really slowed down, other than some internal things here. So in general, and honestly, I didn't write down all the internal things we did, so maybe you guys can help think of some of them. Of course, the other day we had, was it 2 days ago, we had our planning meeting, Jared?
Yes.
2 days ago. So the city council met from 9 a.m. to noon, and we had a planning meeting setting goals and things that we want to accomplish for the year. So that was a few days ago. And other than that, that's about all I got. Deborah?
Nothing. We had
That's a
that
good
was
report.
that was actually yesterday. Wasn't that yesterday?
Was it yesterday?
Was it
Yeah,
Are you
it-
kidding me?
Yeah, it was actually
Oh my
yesterday.
gosh.
Yes, it
It
was.
does seem like it was
like 2 days
It
ago.
does, but it was
Today's
actually
Tuesday,
yesterday.
that's right.
Wow,
It
that's
was yesterday.
crazy.
Yep. I would
Oh,
have
it's so weird.
Forgot about that.
said the same thing.
It's just funny.
Yep.
Huh.
No report.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, yes, I'm not going to add much to the League of Cities. Deanna went over it very well. However, I will say that all the cities that we talk to have pretty much the same mindset that we do about containing costs very closely, doing as much as you can with the resources at hand within the cities, doing it very, very copiously as they go along. They all have the same issues. They were all shocked to hear how well off we are financially. And I think that's due to the city councils we've had in the last 6-8 years that have done a superlative job of that. I did, let's see here, the vector control, I went to the meeting in December, and most of that was only two things really happened. The vector control meetings generally go along at a very fast clip. 35 minutes is a long meeting for them. They did a proclamation for Bill McAloney. They asked me if I was his replacement. I said no, I could never replace him, but I'm here since he's termed out. That's all I had said about that. And then it moved along very quickly to Mayor Choi of Irvine, and they did another proclamation for him. And so Mr. Agron would be taking his place on the vector control. I didn't have any issues with the school advisory because we didn't have the meeting. The community development, I have not attended a meeting so far yet because we haven't had one, to my knowledge. As far as the Friends of the Library, I will get in touch with them and see when their next meeting is. That's all I know at this point. So make it a quick and report tonight. Any questions from anyone?
Well, great.
Thank you.
Surprised how quick the vector meetings are. That's amazing.
It's very, very quick. It's all very much thought out with the board and the president and the vice president, and then of course they have their professional staff. These things are worked out ahead of time, and basically they're killing bugs and rats. So it's pretty much they know what they're doing, and everybody else kind of wonders what the snacks are going to be. So it's kind of like a little league softball game.
There you go.
Little roadkill, yeah.
All righty. Finally tonight, do we have a report from the Villa Park team on any other items of interest?
We're welcoming Jennifer now, so she can report a little bit more on the Towne Centre moratorium meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We just wanted to do a brief report. This sounds odd to you. Just a brief report on our progress on the moratorium and the study with the Towne Centre. So we've held 2 of our 4 town hall meetings. 2 were just this last week. We had a great turnout on our first evening. Several of the property owners were here as well as members of the public. Our second meeting was at 4 o'clock, and we've tried to stagger the times to try to address different folks' schedules. So it was at 4 o'clock. We had a little less turnout, but still great discussions, wonderful questions that people had, and input as well in terms of their concerns and just trying to better understand the issues at large. For the public's benefit, we do have 2 more meetings coming up. One will be on Monday the 28th, and I'm going to just double check the time. The 28th is going to be at 10 a.m. here in the council chambers, and then on the 30th, that's Wednesday at 11 a.m. So now we're trying to meet the morning crowd, folks that are more available during the day, and especially our business representatives here in the Towne Centre as well.
Can you repeat those dates and times again? I'm sorry.
Did I get them backwards?
Yeah.
That's not what we have
I
here in the
apologize.
notes.
It's supposed to be 11.
So
Okay, the 28th is 11.
Is 11. Sorry,
Right, the 30th
I
is 10.
transposed. Thursday
Okay, thank
is
you.
at 10.
Okay.
I apologize, and I apologize to the folks at home.
Maybe that's why your turnout wasn't so good the second day.
Maybe not. No. Better yet, check the website because it is accurate.
Okay, all right.
Now, it's important to note as well that each of the meetings contains the same presentation. We would be happy to have everyone come to every meeting if they really want to come and hear us speak yet again, but no need to. We're not changing the content, and the purpose of that, again, is to have 4 meetings where folks can come, depending on their schedule, and get the same information without feeling like they've missed something. What we'll be doing is taking all of that information into the study that we've already done, and in your packet tonight we've outlined that for you, where we've been looking at what other city codes are doing to address similar issues, what's happening today in our town center relating to parking and mix of land uses, and then also the input that we've heard from the public, not just at the last 2 town hall meetings, but prior to that as well, and the study that was done several years ago as well that set goals and priorities for the city. So we feel pretty confident we're moving ahead on schedule as we've promised you. We'll wrap up these town hall meetings this month. And we're looking forward to meeting specifically with the property owners and the Community Development Committee in February. And Councilwoman Polly had a wonderful suggestion that we'll be moving forward with, which is once we have a draft amendment or recommendation that we'll be making to the council, we'll first sit down with the property owners so that they can see that. It does impact them most directly, although of course it impacts our community at large as well. But we want them to get a glimpse of that, be able to ask us questions and give us their input as well. So we're looking to do that in February, early March, and then our schedule is to have our final recommendations to you coming in April. Any questions, I'd be happy to entertain. Otherwise, we'll get back to work.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good report.
I just had something briefly. If you go to these town hall meetings, Deborah, you were saying you like to stand in the back. Cool to stand in the back. That's not a violation of the Brown Act. But if there's 3 of you there, don't talk about it. My advice is don't say what you think. Just observe, and then we're safe. So, word of caution.
How about winking?
Winking? Depends who's
No.
doing the winking, cowboy.
I was teasing. I wanted to see if someone catch that.
No,
Good
no,
job,
no.
Brianna.
After 3 days in Sacramento, no.
I had a feeling
can
you and
wink
Greg were
across
gonna
the
say,
street
"Halt."
over in the assembly, but they cannot wink on the
All
side.
right, just checking. Just checking.
That was inappropriate, by the way. I did want to say, so our former police chief, Bob Wren, is like in the newspaper every day. Have you been following this?
I know.
In the Yorba Linda Star, there's this big picture of him, and so they've had a transition. So there's a new police station. It's the Yorba Linda substation. So if you go over the hill, you go down Imperial, you hit Yorba Linda Boulevard, you take a right, and then there's a couple blocks down before you get to Yorba Ranch Road, there's a new police station. So there's a new sheriff's station in North Orange County, and things are progressing well. The city's actually going to expand the current building and build it bigger, so it has more space for interrogations and the like. There's actually a meeting tonight in Yorba Linda over police services and the transitions, because maybe you read in the paper there was, at the end of the year, a spate of burglaries prior to the sheriff taking over. So trying to get on top of that, and the sheriff's done a great job. So I just wanted to inform you of that. That's all.
Thank you.
Speaking of the sheriffs, we're on a contract with them, obviously, and the 5th year is coming to an end here at June 30th. Thursday, I'm meeting with the Orange County City Managers as well as Sheriff Hutchins to discuss the terms of the new proposed contract. It really won't affect us too much because they're looking to transition, actually use Yorba Linda's model, which is a 5-year contract that we're currently on. The only item that is causing some concern is the optional provision to terminate it by either party. Currently ours is 180 days. They're looking for a 2-year optional termination. So it'll be interesting to see everybody's perspective on that one, and I'll definitely report out to you with what we find, with what I hear. Also, I'd like to touch on what Councilwoman Fasanelli mentioned and the tour with Villa Park Disposal. They just completed a $21 million upgrade to their material sorting facility on Blue Gum in Anaheim. They scheduled the tour, and they're inviting all council down on February 6th at 11 a.m. So if you can pencil that in, I believe it's a Wednesday. It's about an hour tour, and they'll provide lunch afterwards. Just let me know, and we can make arrangements. That's all that we have.
Great. Okay, with that, we will adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 26th at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. Good night.